Hello, welcome to another episode of the Infinite Podcast. A few changes around the place, new countdown, new intro. Hope you guys like it. Everyone in the chat, welcome. You guys are absolute champions coming through every week and supporting us. So I really appreciate every single one of you guys. We got a guest on the show this week, so we definitely always do our guest introductions first. EverBorn, Saga, welcome back. It's been a long time. How's things? Hey, what have you been up to? What's going on with you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. What I've been up to is getting this Kickstarter out here for the next exciting EverBorn book. We can talk about that later. We can talk about it now too, but we are launching Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2, and the Kickstarter ends in less than 3 days. But like I said, I don't want to take up too much time with that until later. But I'm very excited. There's a lot of news going on, and I'm happy to talk about it.
Absolutely, man. Well, welcome back. It's good to have you back, and definitely want to get talking about your Kickstarter, and I will link that down in the description during the show.
Thank you.
Umbra, how's your week been? What have you been up to, man? What's going on? I know you played Metaphor, and I do want to talk about that.
No, yeah, man, I did. I played a good 9.5, maybe 10 hours of it, and man, I loved it. I did not think I was going to love it that much. Atlas, I've never played any of their games. Like the Personas, I've been told by our brother Assassin, to jump on it, and other people that told me to jump on Persona 3 and stuff like that and get into it. Danny is big on them; he's played all of them, and so he knows all about this. And so we're going to have a round table discussion about it. We were going to have it yesterday, but my internet was messed up, man. That was with a technical issue, so I couldn't go live. They came by, luckily, Comcast, and fixed it today. It was just a line issue outside. He just came by. I didn't even know he was here. He just walked around and was like, "Oh, hey," rang my doorbell. I fixed it. I'm like, "Huh?" He said, "Go check." I go look and it's on. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So it took all of probably 10 minutes for him to fix this issue rather. And so we're going to have a live roundtable discussion tomorrow at 5 o'clock Eastern. I want everybody to come by and check us out. It's a very good discussion. It's going to be a very good discussion. Just us in agreement. We were talking about it, and it was like you could hear. Riskit. I hear the value for this.
What just happened?
Okay, I thought I was going crazy for. Am I the only one hearing this?
Real time edits.
That's how you know we're live.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, goodness,
Yeah, it does.
Busting my eardrums right there.
Yeah, it does a very weird thing when you switch over to studio mode and transfer it through. So if I bring up YouTube stuff, you just try to ignore it. Keep going.
Yeah.
Hey, Umbra, let me ask you before you continue. Have you tried this in handheld mode yet?
I was
not handheld
actually,
mode, but like on the ROG Ally.
Yeah, like on the ROG. I actually tried it yesterday night. Funny enough, you should mention that. Plays pretty well on it. I didn't have much issues. I know it was having issues with PC, but I think they've patched it because I didn't have any issues. Although, to be fair, I didn't get a chance to play very long before I moved on to something else. So there is that. Our brother Lucius, he happened to play it on both Xbox and on a handheld, so he would know more of it. I'm going to play it on handheld before we discuss it though tomorrow, so I'll have an understanding of how it worked and everything like that. So we're also trying to get keys, just to kind of throw this, and I'll wrap it up. We're trying to get keys. Atlas is giving away keys. If you all have not signed up to try to get it for review and such like that, definitely do so. It's on their page on Twitter, and me and Lucius are both trying to get keys, and if we can, we're going to try to do a co-authored review of this for the GCP blog. So look out for that.
When does the game officially launch? Because I bought it already. So
Yeah,
when would I get it?
October 11th. Yeah, you have
next week.
Oh yeah, next week Friday. Yeah. So
You know what's interesting? Not to like go off on a tangent, but like usually when a game is bad, they hold back the reviews till this late. But it seems like it's the opposite here, where everybody really likes this game.
Yep.
But they're still
Not
holding
everybody.
the reviews back.
No,
Well, okay.
no.
Okay.
Our less Japanese inclined sister and brother here on the panel. But yeah,
To me, this is like fantasy and politics, so I'm all about it. I played it on the 4090 for like a half hour, and then I tried to get it going on the handhelds, and
yeah.
like it was fine. Like it'll run at 30, but it's not well optimized
You know,
to run on handhelds
it's
yet.
it's interesting you say that because one of the things Lucius pointed out is that a lot of Japanese developers kind of get away with that when it comes to RPGs and stuff. Like they get away with not having that standard of technical, I guess, excellence being held against them like Western devs will. And I was like, I never thought about it, and even I was excusing them when he said it. But you're right. It should on a 4090, this thing should be blazing at 200 and frames, like 200 frames per
No,
second or something.
I mean the 4090 is fine. It's when I
Yeah.
put it on the Ally X, and then you guys know I built that Steambox machine, right? Like the
Right.
light thing,
Hmm.
which is basically an Ally X under your TV in a console shape. And it, like I said, I can put the settings on low, get it to run at a lock 30, but the way it draws things in the background, like the draw distance and things like that, are
Right.
just unbearable. So, but
Yes,
that's
like
handheld.
this is
What are you gonna expect?
this is what I wanted to say. So I played this game for probably 2 hours last night just to sort of get a feel for what it's all about. So what you're seeing on screen is not my gameplay, but it's the gameplay that I went through. So shout out to Faz for providing the gameplay. But this game started so many times, like this sort of stuff. So you run a little bit, more story, more talking, more dialogue. You run a little bit more stop start, more talking, more story, more dialogue. This is almost an anime movie with a little bit of gameplay thrown into, and that's just not my bag. Like
I think that
honestly,
Persona is
this-
like that too.
That
Yeah.
that is what it felt like, and I didn't hate it because of that.
See, I'm like
Yeah.
I'm like Everborn. See, I like more
Everyone's
narrative.
like, that was right up my alley.
As he's like, you're speaking my language, but I'm like that too, where I do want action, but I prefer a heavy narrative
Storified.
story. Yeah, storified. Yeah, and this gives that. You're right though. You're not wrong about that. Another game does that. We were talking about this earlier on the GCP Discord. Is Final Fantasy does that. Final Fantasy 16 is heavy with that, where it's like, oh, do the side
This
mission.
is worse than Final Fantasy 16 in that regard, though.
Well, to be fair, it's early on. I think as you progress later on, it's not as bad. So, like when you get more into it, it's going to get more gamified, where you're going to have more action versus just dialogue. But the part of this game's charm is the sim aspect, and I wrote about that on a preview I wrote for the GCP blog, by the way. The sim aspect of it is heavy, as well as the political side of it, Everborn. So you definitely, I think you'll enjoy it for that. For those reasons enough, you know what I mean? Outside
It's-
of the action and everything.
But
It
I
is
think
a game of the times, though, right? Like, because it sort of feels like you've got, like, I will say, I mean, we'll move on to the introductions as we go, but it's very much a game of the times in what we're living in sort of right now, especially you guys in America. It's not so much Australia, but where it seems like the world has communities that are completely polarized against each other. And there's lots of discrimination and things like, and then there's this overarching, the good guy who I'm going to spoil it because it's a demo. So if you haven't played it, your fault. The king has died, so, and he's trying to get, bring the people. Long live the king, trying to bring the people together, and he's died, and so now there's all this turmoil. That's like right at the beginning. That's like one of the first things that happens. So it's not really a massive spoiler.
It's not. It's,
I don't know,
it's not. I agree.
It feels like they're hitting a good note for the story. I don't disagree. I think the story's going to be amazing. But
I love the tone.
Yeah, it is brilliant. Tone, but just the start, I was like, come on, man. Like I'm swinging my sword, and then I'm like, cool, I'm going to swing my sword. This is going to be some real time action. Neck minute, we're like in another story beat.
Can I say one thing? And I know you got to move on. What the difference between this and Final Fantasy 16? I know there are many, but I feel like Final Fantasy 16 was better about transitioning you into the story, even though you're doing the same thing, like walking a few steps and now you're in a cutscene. This is like a hard, jarring stop, and now you're watching animation for 10 minutes. And now you're going to walk a few more steps. And here's another
I can see that.
animation.
I can see that.
That's true.
They're both heavy on it. They're both heavy on the narrative part of it. So
I felt like I turned on
What is
Crunchyroll
happening right now?
when I was playing.
So-
But anyway,
So hang on. So, like literally put down my controller at a point because I was like, all right, fine. All right, let's watch this thing. And then I was like, oh, we're good to go. It was this bit, actually. And then you run up the street. And then I'm like, cool, we got some action. I'm going to run up the street. And then it's up. Damn loading screen. Okay.
Hey, yo, Riskit, am I supposed to still be hearing this audio from this game? From this whatever's playing?
I don't hear it.
Yeah, it's playing for
I
me.
don't hear it either.
There's
I
audio
heard a
issues. There
siren
is audio.
just a minute ago.
Yeah,
I
it's
did
like
hear
I
a
can
siren.
It's like I can literally hear the audio of whatever's playing. There you go. It just stopped. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's got some weird audio bugs at the moment. I'll send them off a ticket to get that sorted. But it is the only way you can play YouTube. You can't bring it in through screen. It's a whole thing. But EV Marks, sort your shit out. Donte,
Riskit.
welcome back.
Highlight
Sorry.
Keosante's chat. I thought this when you
That
said
is-
it.
That is not a spoiler, Riskit. Don't let Keosante gaslight you. Literally, you turn on the game and you see that. Like it's before the title screen. Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
just starts with an actual animation. Cut it out, Keosante. Your fixing not gonna work.
Jeez, that's a force behind it.
It did have some force behind it.
I will
So
see
Donte,
you in the
welcome.
morning, sir.
Welcome back. We didn't have you on last week. You had some things going on in the background, so you couldn't attend the show last week. So it's great to have you back on, man. How's your week been? How's things going? What have you been up to?
Yeah, man. I'm happy to be back. It's been a harrowing in the last couple of weeks, but it's good to actually kind of get my mind focused on other things. And so being back right here, if you guys rocking with the panel and having EverBorn join is it's a good way to kind of get my mind on something that I actually enjoy. So what I've been playing. Actually, I'm back in the Starfield right now, man. So I'm like, right now I'm trying to set up my outpost building. So I got a few outposts, but I'm trying to basically set it up so that way I got a crazy economy going, and so I can continue to max out some of my skill sets. So it's been kind of fun to kind of dive back into that. And I started some of Shattered Space, but I'm like, all right, I'm gonna finish maxing out, or not maxing out, but kind of capping off some skill sets, and then I'm gonna go back and continue Shattered Space once I feel like I've got my skills up a little bit further. And I just bought a new ship that I'm about to deck out. So outside that, man, it's been pretty good. So happy to be here.
Awesome.
Pretty cool.
So what is it doing it again?
Sound.
You guys aren't hearing it, but maybe it could be. There it is.
Is that fixed?
Yeah, well,
Yep.
yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's me. That's me.
So I was gonna ask how's Shattered Space go? Did you played a little bit? What are your thoughts? I'm hearing a lot of it's boring.
I'm only about 2 hours in it, so I'm actually doing a bunch of the side stuff too. So I'm not just kind of mainlining it. I'm talking to people, picking up some side quests, so I can do a little bit more exploration within the planet. But so I haven't played enough of the actual expansion to kind of give a full-throat explanation as to what my opinion of it is. But so far, I'm enjoying it, man. It's just me back into the world that I enjoy with playing the main game and stuff. So I'll see later if it actually sticks the landing. But so far, I'm enjoying it. So we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of negative about it. That it's just boring, is what I keep hearing. And it's not quite like one of the faction missions. It's like it has that tone, like it's a faction mission, but it's not quite sticking that landing. So I love Starfield, but I finished the game and then I didn't do New Game Plus, so I'm sort of keen to jump back in. But if it's more Starfield, I don't see the problem with that. Like if it's just you straight out
That's where I'm
Starfield.
at. It's like more Starfield. So I'm okay with that. I can understand I can understand if some people, I mean, for some of the criticisms I've heard, like it's understandable, but for some of the stuff I've heard has also been for some people who probably didn't really care about Starfield to begin with. So it's kind of like, all right, cool. It's, you didn't really like the base game, so why did you think that this was really going to appeal to you? But I don't know, man. I'll check back with you guys on the next show once I complete it.
To be
Holly?
fair, like Gray Monad said he finished it. It seems like he liked it. It was an 8, or he gave it 7.9, I guess.
Yeah.
But one of the things he wrote earlier in the chat, which I actually, and I haven't tried it yet, so I don't know. But what I would have a huge problem with is they sold it as kind of this horror adventure, right? And that's what made me go, oh, snap, I definitely want to play this, right? But Gray Monad specifically said it's not horror. There's no horror. And I'm like,
Yeah,
wait, what?
it would, if you're looking
Like,
for horror, I would say like for what I've experienced so far, because there's one part that I got into where I can see maybe why they're trying to give it that that title, but similar to like what are the name of the beasts that you kind of when you take the UC missions that you gotta fight those the really hard enemy type,
the
whatever
like
that thing
giant
is.
death claws that are
Yeah,
the Starfield
whatever the
version of
yeah
death
Starfield's
claws.
version of that, right? So that
Yeah.
type of beast thing. There's a portion in the game when you're in a cave and some stuff like that starts happening. So I'm assuming maybe more of that's going to happen because that seems to be like an enemy that's kind of hidden behind whatever the goal you're chasing. That you're encountering this enemy types. And I ain't gonna lie, when I was stuck in that cave trying to fight my way out of it, there was a moment of a little.
You were a
bit of
little
panic 'cause I'm
horrified.
getting- yeah, it was just a little bit. So maybe if it's in that regard, but I don't think anybody should think of it as like,
Resident
horror,
Evil.
like Resident Evil type. Isn't it? I don't think it's gonna be anything like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm keen to check it out, but I mean, if it's more Starfield and it's just cruising through the universe on a different planet, I'm wholly down for that. I'd be fine. Speaking of Holly, how's your week been? What have you been up to? How's things going? What have you been playing? Holly?
It's been a busy week. I haven't been playing any JRPGs because
Say
you
it ain't
won't
so,
catch me
Holly.
playing JRPGs.
That's not your jam, Holly? That's not your jam? No.
No, it's not my gig. But I am extremely. First of all, Riskit. Why is Umbra not in the corner? Why?
When we started up, I saw her eyeballs look up at me right there. I swear I thought she might not like being down at the bottom like that. And sure enough, the black man has
Put your
been
doggone
relegated.
face on camera, and
Damn.
you can have front and
Put
center
baby
all
in the
you
corner.
want. Okay.
They done put the
Put
black
baby
man
in
in
the
the
corner.
You see this, Dante?
I see it.
I have been on
All I
press
see
live
is
in
a
front of
screen with
everyone.
a picture. I don't see a man at all.
Oh, hey.
Just a
Hey.
picture.
Hold on real quick.
You know we both live in
see a
Chicago,
photo.
right? You know we both live in Chicago. I
Yeah,
can
but
come
you
visit
don't-
you.
Do There's- I could call you out right now, sir.
Don't do it.
reserve the right for future punishment. Yeah, I've been playing. So you can pull up on YouTube and blow our eardrums out again. The game, The Forever Winter. No, not that.
Truly surprising
Damn it.
feat, Miss Rasputin. For someone so young, of
I have
course.
been playing that though a lot. So you can start with that if you want. I started Marvel's Midnight Suns. It was gifted to me a few months ago by one of our panel members that I fight with a lot. I finally got around to starting because I really did want to play it. I really wanted to play it. And so there's been a little bit of a lull, and I was like, okay, I just like fired it up, and it is a lot of fun. I am really enjoying the combat. The graphics, they're kind of rough. It's like they shouldn't be
Look at that. They're rough.
for
Kind of basic, kind
this
of bland.
game at this.
Yeah. That's bland as
Yeah.
hell.
But the gameplay
God
is
damn.
fantastic, though.
Why are
The
they
card
walking like
games
this?
are the
What is
cards.
this? Sorry.
It does look pretty weird.
It's
Bow-legged ass
awkward.
walking. What is this? What's happening?
there is yeah,
It's bad.
and
It's very
everybody's
bad.
kind of everybody's kind of 2009-ish looking. It's not good, but
I got sick lineup on my man Blade, though. His lineup is dope. I ain't
the
gonna lie.
card gate is, and Blade is the best looking character in it.
Oh yeah,
But the card
by far.
play is fantastic. It's really good. The battles are good. The upgrade system is really good. It's a lot of fun. I'm really, really enjoying it. And the writing was not great either. Fuzzy Tomato, I will agree with you on some of that, but the actual combat and all of that stuff it's a really fun time. But the game
That's
I want
good
to
at
talk
least.
about,
How much time
it
did you
is.
put
And
into it, by the way? Do you know, like, how much time?
I've probably got 15, 20 hours in it at least now.
Oh man, you enjoying it for sure.
Yeah, I am. You got to know what it is. Like after you get into it and you kind of realize like what it is, then there's some really interesting stuff that you do in between the battles. Like
Is this
you're
like
on a
point and click?
campus. No, it's a card. It's a
Oh.
card-based game.
Yeah, it's weird. So like it's not it's Firaxis who made XCOM, and it's sort of I thought it was going to be like you're moving your characters around and they're going to get behind cover. It's just absolutely not that at all. You can move the character like one of them once, and then you're basically relying on the cards that you get, and then you can do swaps. And it's not for me, but like I could get down with it if like it was even just slightly graphically better. It looks like a 2009 game. It's terrible. It's not my bag.
It could just be like the style. If the style is a little bit better, like I don't. It's not so much about just the fidelity of like how the character models look. It's more like the art style gives me the 2009 feel. But if the gameplay is cool, the gameplay is cool, so it doesn't matter, I guess.
It's really good gameplay. To be fair though, too, I think that Marvel Rivals looks like doo-doo too. So I don't know if it's just a Marvel thing. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. The game's a ton of fun to play. But the thing I want to talk about besides this game is a game that came out last week in early access, early access called The Forever Winter. And good God, if you have not seen any trailers for this game, you should go watch the gameplay trailer and then the like final like what is it, the early access announcement trailer or something like that. They're both like 4-ish minutes long. It is so addictive. It's so good. It's got a lot of jank because I think it's just I think they had a lot of people who had supported it and were like getting overly anxious to play it. So they kind of went, okay, well, we'll just put it out in early access, but it's early access. It's like pre-alpha. It's but it is so much fun. I can't recommend it enough right now. It's only on Steam and AGH. It is a bit of a buggy mess, but it plays like it's still fun. Like it plays well enough that yes, there's some bugs here and there, but you just have a great time. It's really good. I'm just really impressed with it. And like after I played it that night, I played it with Red Wolf. After I played it that night, like the next morning I woke up and I was like still thinking about the game. And I feel like when a game does that, it's something special, right? So watch out for it or get it for $27 in early access, because for $27 it's worth it how it is. It's brutal though. It's hard. It's very hard.
Which game was this?
Yeah, and it looks
Pause.
The one on.
That's Midnight Sun.
The Forever
I
Winter.
Forever Winter.
I heard
know.
you
I was
saying
beating you to it. I was
Mad
beating
confused.
you to it.
Mad
Okay.
confused. I thought we were
I will
looking at
pause
Midnight Sun. I'm
myself.
tripping.
All right.
Hey, you beat me to it, so fair enough. But okay, so Forever Winter. Okay, I gotta look into that.
Yes. Yeah. Riskit's not gonna pull it up, I guess. But and the soundtrack
We're good.
is mad good. The soundtrack is
It's
absolutely
nice.
fun. I actually bought the soundtrack. It's that good.
Oh, you liked it a lot. Damn. Okay.
Mhm.
You know this.
It's really
Is
good.
that your get ready music when you get your hair and
It's
your makeup
like
did?
super dark cyberpunk noir sounding. It's
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So a heavy
Sound
bass,
good.
heavy
Yeah,
bass. I'm
I'm good with
guessing
that.
being something heavy bass, like
a lot of electronics, like
All right. All
very
right.
good.
Holly be up in there pop locking to it and stuff. Okay, I see what you are.
Dun,
Right.
makeup,
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I got you. I got you, Holly.
what is
I
going
know
on.
it's not Miami Vice,
No,
okay?
it's all good. We got you.
It's not Miami Vice. All
Totally
right.
got you.
What is going on here?
No.
Got you
There-
covered.
they're playing Miami Vice and it's like Terminator. Okay, so
Yeah, I should have it.
All right, moving on. We'll jump into the topics for the week because a really interesting one sort of came up, and I definitely wanted to discuss it with the panel. It's something that's been affecting Xbox for quite some time. It's just a negative. It is a little bit of negative news. So, guys in the chat, don't kill me right now. Like when negative stuff comes up, we're going to talk about it. So, Microsoft released a blog post on their site. Very basically, they've started asking devs why they're skipping Xbox. And some of the quotes from Dr. Deborah, these guys are social scientists, so they're actual scientists, and they are trying to research why it is or how to make things easier for developers on Xbox. And there was a lot of rhetoric that got posted in the comments under this when Tom Henderson posted it on Twitter. But some of the quotes were from the blog side. If you're making video games, we're interested in hearing from you. If you aren't on Xbox, we'd love to know why. And honestly, if you're using our competitors' products, you probably have a great perspective we could learn from. They want to gain fresh perspectives and avoid becoming an echo chamber. And they said it's a bit like testing your players who play games. They are your target audience, and you want to hear fresh perspectives because their expectations may differ from folks who are deep in the community. A couple of things that I have an issue with here is obviously, one, we've been talking about this for a long time. Why don't they listen to all the podcasts? I think we've highlighted all the issues that Xbox has had. One, and we'll get into those. But the other thing is this test is only happening within America. And when you're obviously have problems reaching out into other markets, I feel like this research should be expanded to other countries. I feel like that's a massive misstep. That might just be because I'm not American and I'm Australian, but you know, that's sort of my take on the limiting aspects of this research. I guess the other things.
Sorry, gonna butt in.
No,
Do
you're
you
right.
think though it's
Hey.
because they do have this is their biggest market, so if they're not getting it in their own biggest market, you start there and expand out?
Yeah, maybe, but if you're the biggest market of developers there, because that's where sort of where they're looking, right? So most of their developers here. And if you're having problems with getting in Eastern games, so I think they're looking at more Korea, China, obviously Japan, all those sorts of games or developers. Why wouldn't you also put that out there to see what their issues are to sort of bring that into the fold? I think that's important. Not for you, Holly, because you don't like JRPGs, so I understand that. I get that.
Don't
But
ask.
So, Riskit, did they only send this to U.S. developers, or?
Yeah, it's only within the US.
Okay.
So I think that's a misstep.
I don't, because this is the one they sent out now. I don't think it means that they won't send it out to other places. My issue with this, like, with the discourse around this, is a lot of people are taking this, and I'm just going by the YouTube videos that were made. And the comments on the timeline, a lot of people are taking this as though it's like a consumer survey, and like if your answer is people aren't, not your answer, but this is what I'm hearing people say, people aren't putting games on your box because you're putting your games in other places. That's not really it. This is more a developer question. And if the question is, or the critique is, they should have done this at the beginning of the generation before we got to this point. I think the reason they're doing this now is because they're trying to prep for whatever they're doing in the next generation, so that they have all that info, and they're trying to find the pain points so that we don't have issues like Baldur's Gate 3 again, and hopefully issues like Black Myth Wukong and those other things. So I saw this as a good thing. I don't, like, a lot of people got upset about it, but I'm like, if they're asking developers, what specifically is it? What about our tool sets? What about our customer support, right? Because we see a lot of indie devs that have issues just getting in contact with the right people, right? So if they can get the answers they need so that when they roll up to 2026, 2027, whenever they do what they're doing for their next gen console offerings, I think, or just their platform in general, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a net positive to ask the question and understand that, you know, as big companies, they don't just they probably don't tune into the Infinite podcast and say, oh, well, these guys obviously know what they're talking about, so we'll just follow everything that they say. But I mean, there's some really obvious there's some really obvious things that they could do here. I mean, the certification process is long and hard.
Hey, yo.
and it is, and that's something that we hear often. And then I guess my gripe on that is you just let a lot of those staff members go earlier in the year, and now you're having problems. It seems to me that's a self-explanatory issue you can resolve. Another thing as well to sort of note when it comes to the certification process is, and I think Jez said something about this. I caught the back end of him saying it on his show. Another one, is that they do deal with a lot of security, and you don't want to open up the ecosystem where people can drop a hack in and get through to your into your system. So when they do the certification process, that's obviously an important part of the process. And if that's as hard as it needs to be, or as difficult, or has as many roadblocks as it needs to have, then that's fine. But then I would say bring in AI, bring in staff, help assist with that process, because AAAs don't seem to have a problem getting a hold of Microsoft, but it seems to be indie developers or AA developers that don't get.
Was it just that one story that we heard, which they eventually got to them? Was it two?
It was two so far. Yeah. So it's obvious. Yeah. And there'll be other developers that care about their relationship with Microsoft enough to not make that public. You know what I mean? Whereas these guys were just like, they had enough and they made it public. So if it's two, I feel like that's a tip of the iceberg type thing. But I want to flick around the panel and see, because there's obviously a lot of things that we've heard, you know, the certification process, the obvious one that people keep saying, which is, you know, the player base isn't there. Xbox guys don't buy games because we've been trained to just play Game Pass or wait for it to come to Game Pass.
Yeah.
You know, and there's more, obviously a lot more to it, but are these the problems that it is, or is it something else? And it's good that they're doing the research. I'll flick back to you, Everborn, and then we'll go around the panel and see where we think these problems are. But you did make a point on tool sets, and I think that's very valid. If they can get some feedback on their tool sets and how to use them, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I also think, like, and maybe this is an American thing. I call it the Talladega Nights line of thinking, which is if you're not first, you're last. And a lot of people, when people say, well, devs don't want to put their games there because the consoles aren't selling, they may be outsold 2-1 by Sony, but that's still 30 million plus whoever is still on Xbox One playing. You're not going to point me to any developer that will tell you, I don't want access to 50 million people.
Right.
Right? There's some other reasons, and they don't need to outsell Sony. They can even continue to be outsold 2-1, and that's still a very sizable audience that does spend money and that developers want access to. So I don't think the answer is there aren't enough people in the Xbox ecosystem. I think a lot of it has to do with tools and other things. And I was talking to Kay Asante about this morning. You know, I don't think it's so easy to develop for the Switch, but you don't hear developers complaining about that because they want access to that sweet 150 million users, right? And I'm sure Sony has had issues getting back to smaller developers, but they don't really say anything. I do have a question, and I don't know the answer to this. This is a genuine question. Why does everyone feel so comfortable to bring these things to the public when it's Microsoft related versus the other guys? And I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm
'Cause they're
just
not the market
saying
leader.
I would be highly shocked
Yeah.
if it wasn't just as difficult, if not more difficult, to develop for the Switch than it is for the Series S and X. And so, like, if tools are an issue and porting is an issue, why don't we hear that when people port to the Switch? And then, um, you know, I am absolutely sure that indie devs have had issues getting a hold of Sony or just getting their games seen, but you don't hear them making big articles about it. So that's always an interesting thing to me. But I think for as far as Microsoft is concerned, Xbox, them being in the position that they are in, the third place position, they have to lower any barriers of entry they are. Because even if they have the tools, people aren't going to take advantage of them unless they are easy to use and understand.
EverBorn, would you say though that Nintendo kind of gets a pass just because of how the install base that they have? Like, clearly they're one of the leaders in sales and things like that, and they have a narrative established that they don't really need third-party devs as much as the devs need them.
Sure, but I just think the way that Sony and Nintendo approach public relations, I think developers don't feel comfortable voicing their gripes about the ecosystems as they do when they're talking about Kumbaya Microsoft. Which, by the way, that Kumbaya thing is just for marketing, right? And when I say marketing, I mean that's their public face that they use because Microsoft is so large, they can't really seem to be aggressive without drawing the ire of regulators, just in general. And this is a Microsoft company-wide thing, not just the Xbox division. And so I just think developers might feel that they could ruin their relationship with Nintendo or Sony by voicing some of these things in public, versus with Microsoft, you can say whatever you want, and you're going to get a call from Phil Spencer apologizing to you. So tell me I'm wrong.
I think you have
What?
I think you're onto something there. Like, I think it's pretty similar to how certain publications don't really talk about negative stuff in relation to Sony when it comes to PlayStation. It's also like not wanting to, like, you receive access, and if they are going to give you less access because you're basically putting out negative articles or being I won't say overly critical, but as critical as you can see them for being for Xbox, I think that becomes a situation where certain even publications inside of gaming media kind of shy away from attacking Sony, right? You hardly see too many negative articles directed at them. So the same thing comes with devs. These are where the users are, right? It's on PlayStation, it's on Nintendo. So it's like Microsoft being in third place. Unfortunately, they become the ones where you can be a little bit more vocal. And what are they going to do about it? Microsoft needs our business more so. We need Sony, we need Nintendo. We like Microsoft. We want to be able to sell games there, but third place is that's a determining factor as to why you see more people being vocal.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you guys said. Absolutely, 110% agree. But I'll cut back on and push back a little bit on one thing and just say and ask the question. And I'll jump to you, Holly. Is that with AAA game sales are already languishing? They're already not meeting expectations. This is not for AA's. This is mostly for AAA's that we see it. But AA's are obviously going to be affected. They're within the business. And the cost of development has skyrocketed, right? So we're not seeing the sales to cover the cost of development. And does that then affect games coming to Xbox? I agree 100%, by the way, before I'll jump to you, Blue. I agree 100% that Talladega Nights thing is a thing. There's 50 million consoles in the ecosystem. What have we got? 30 million ninth gen consoles out in the ecosystem. So that's not a small number. That's a lot of money on the table. But when you consider the fact that AAA development is costing more, AA development's costing more, sales aren't meeting expectations, and then we have a system or an ecosystem that really encourages you to wait for Game Pass, which I don't do, by the way. I know Garuda does. If he was here, he'd be like guilty as charged. So, that could be affecting, not the statistics, but it could be affecting the thought process of developers. Blue, you would jump in.
No, just commentary on what you guys were saying. As we've all seen, right? We've seen on Twitter where somebody's been like it was around Phantom Blade Zero. People were like, well, when is it coming into Xbox? And they were like, why would we bother? Like they text something like that, and they're not, they're probably not the only ones who have said something along those lines. And to EverBorn's point, they don't, it's not like they actively go out and aggressively attack Microsoft, but they're not as scared to say something like they are with Sony. So if that's the case, clearly there's feedback being given to them, or at least there has been in the past. Like, I don't think that it's possible that we've gotten to here and they've never actually reached out to those devs personally and asked for their feedback. I just don't think that's possible, especially when it gets highlighted like Black Myth Wukong did, for example, right? So they probably know exactly what's going on, at least as far as there's probably some traditional
Roadblocks.
standard things that they hear frequently, right? About, well, it didn't work this way, or I can't get split screen to work, or whatever it is. So they have to know a lot of feedback. So why would they actively put themselves out there in this specific way where everybody's going to hear about it and know, to say, hey, why don't you put your game on our system? Like, I just think there's something else going on. And I haven't read or researched too much about this yet, so I'm not 100% up to snuff on what's going on. But I did try to fill out the survey. I was just curious what happens, right? And you get kicked pretty quickly. But I just don't understand if they are getting this feedback, which they have to be, because they've been in a few situations where there's been some questions about what's going on and they've had to reach out directly and then kind of put out these cagey responses. Why are they actively doing it like this?
Yeah, I think
You mean
I think
publicly?
Everborn had a good point earlier in terms of if this is them kind of preparing to not repeat the same issues for whatever their next offering is going to be. From this outside standpoint looking at it, we kind of get this idea of like, well, how are you just now getting to that point? We would think that you've been doing this whole time, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain that you're trying to be proactive and wanting to basically understand what are some of the pain points. We can say off the bat, it needs to be just as easy for development for the Xbox platform as it is for whatever the dev kit is for PlayStation. Devs basically need to
Or
be
Windows, or it needs
Yeah.
to just be able to run on
it needs
PC.
to be it can't be a
on your
situation where
Xbox.
we're having these conversations as to, we couldn't get such and such working properly on this particular one. And as much as I love the S, they got to find a way to make sure that that doesn't repeat itself, where you have a roadblock for certain games because of a particular feature. If it's a memory issue or if it's split screen, whatever it is, it cannot be the narrative where it's out there where a game got delayed and didn't come to your platform at the same time it released on PlayStation for months later because maybe one console potentially was a little bit of an issue for a developer to work with. That can't
Great
just be a
point.
thing, right? It just
Yep.
has to be like
There's-
at the bat, we're there, right? Like if it's released on a PlayStation on this date, it's released on an Xbox on this day. Simple
But
and plain.
that's
So-
not.
So
There's a. Go ahead.
I mean,
Yeah,
sorry,
just one thing, though,
barring
like-
it's not like a paid exclusivity thing, right? If there's nothing like that in place, it can't be a development hurdle as to why it wasn't ready for Xbox. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it's just the thing is like we all know, just being in the community and hyper focusing on this stuff, like we know what the narrative is, the narrative around games missing the platform. But the question is, and what I think they're trying to find out is, what are the specifics, right? So if we say, okay, well, the Series S is an issue, what they're trying to find out is exactly why, so that they can address those things. So even us knowing surface level or having a perceptual understanding of, what it might be in general, in order for them to fix it, they have to have those specifics. They have to know, well, what tool are you using that's not working for you specifically? What about the memory setup isn't working for you? Is it the way we're streaming in? Is it the two different speeds of memory? All those things are things that I think they're going to be asking. And this is why they said, if you're publishing on PlayStation, what are their tools doing in comparison to ours that makes ours more difficult, right? And they have to get the nitty gritty details of that. So it is worth them reaching out to get those details from the people actually working with their dev kits.
Was it? I don't know if it was this gen or was it the previous gen where Xbox was late with their dev kit compared to like
it was this gen.
Was this gen, right?
This gen.
So like, so what is that? What is that? What is that telling us there? Is it? It tells me that it's not as plug and play as whatever PlayStation's was, right? Or what developers were used to for PlayStations, they had to adjust somewhat for whatever they were learning with Xboxes, right? To a degree.
So part of that is, as I understand it, is the PlayStation tool set didn't really change from what everyone was used to in the PS4.
Okay.
And they just basically added new things, right? So you're basically dealing with the same set of tools that they've been dealing with for 8, 10 years now. 12 years now, 11 years, whatever. You get what I'm saying. They've been dealing with those tools for a long time, and so everyone has a good understanding of that. And with Xbox, they moved over to, I think it's the XDK, and now it's a more unified thing between PC and console, at least more unified than it was, and not all of the tools were ready at launch, and then even when they came along, a lot of people have access to them, but they don't use them just because that's not what they're used to. And some of the stuff just doesn't work as advertised. Oh, I think we moved to the GDK. They were on the XDK, now they're on the GDK.
GDK,
so, yeah. So, but the point is, Xbox kind of changed their tool set, and
significantly
enhanced theirs. So you just had that industry-wide know-how for on the PlayStation side, and I think devs will get used to what's happening with the GDK over time. But again, now you're halfway through a generation, and you not being in first place means developers are gonna do what PlayStation has, because that's what they're used to, and they're getting new features to make their life easier in a tool set they already know, versus on the Xbox side, they got to learn something new, and then some of it came in hot, so now there's a little bit of dogma around some of their tools, right? And to make matters worse, and this is what I believe, right? On the Xbox game studios, like their own studios, are not using the tools, unless they were lying about what the tools could do in the white papers, right? Yeah. Their own studios are not using the tool set and the box to its fullest potential, right? And what I see, and again, maybe correlation is not causation, is your first party is going to show the world what these tools can do, and that inspires all the other third parties to say, oh, that's what you guys did with those tools, now let me show you what my guys can do. But it seems as though, and maybe this is a result of, there's a lot of new acquisitions since 2018, so you don't have lifers like how you have with 343 and Rare's been there a long time. So has Turn 10 and Playground, who really only did these games with them before. So Playground is considered a lifer. They are using the tools. Asobo's using the tools with Flight Sim, right? But the newer studios that have come on later, they're still getting used to it. And you could argue Ninja Theory's been around long enough, and they use the
I
tools
feel
properly.
like they're probably using more of the tool set, them in
Right.
Coalition.
It seems like it.
But third party, I can definitely see if like not fully.
But
taking advantage of it.
first party has to show the way, and I
Yeah.
think because, listen, Bethesda is theirs now, but it's only been 2 years. So everything you've seen from Bethesda was really
old work.
incubated
Mhm.
under them being a multi-platform publisher.
Cinemax. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, when I say Bethesda, it's shorthand for ZeniMax, but
Exactly.
the
Of
publishers,
course.
all that stuff. But and the same thing with ABK. So when we see these things happen, and you might see a Hi-Fi Rush have better cell shaded shadows on the PlayStation, that is more of an Unreal thing than it is, and how Unreal works on the PlayStation hardware versus the Xbox hardware. That's why you'll see those things. But I'm saying all this to say their first party needs to show everyone else the way, and that will inspire third parties to use those tools.
I was going to say that's part of the problem, I think, that Xbox has to figure out. And one of the problems of becoming de facto second in the place between them and Sony is that developers are going to choose to develop first for the lead platform. We saw this with the 360 where it benefited Xbox, obviously. And now we're seeing the opposite here in this situation. Also with the Xbox One and PS4, although the Xbox One was underpowered compared to the PS4, to be fair. But all of that plays into
Yeah,
this
but
too.
they still gave you Rise, and they
Yeah.
still gave you Quantum Break. As much as they were.
Listen, I love Rise and Quantum Break, but as far as when it relates to third party developers and putting their games on the platform and being frustrated with having to develop specifically using the tools for Microsoft at one point, and adding to that, when you talk about the tools, I remember it was such a big discussion on RDX where they were talking about it all the time, and I had to talk to some of our Hoove brothers, and they were like, "Well, where are the tools at, Umbra?" "Yeah, well, dealer said this," and I've been in these spaces recently,
I know.
and
I've seen people clipping the tools. I get it.
It's tiresome, and I start to feel like, I don't know, like Donald Trump. The tools are there, folks.
They're there. Please.
They're
use the
just
tools.
not
Eating the
using them.
tools.
They're eating the tools.
They're eating.
So it starts to feel like a fairy tale, like it's not really there. And I'm left in this position to try to defend it. And it's like, no, dealer and them were correct. Like, those things are there. We're just not seeing them use it. Like, even first party is not using it. So I think it's got to be an effort, to your point, EverBorn, where Microsoft has to say, hey, and they've had this issue where they kind of let these devs under them like do their own thing, and they don't interfere, which is cool. But I think to a point, and we've had this discussion on here many times, Risk, you would know, where we say Microsoft is going to have to like stop that whole just do what you do thing and really step in and to see what their devs are doing. And I think part of that is going to be enforcing the use of their tech, and that's part of the problem.
You know
Go
what?
ahead.
While they're at it,
Let me
with
ask
this,
you one
thing that they're
question real
doing.
quick.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, everyone.
Yeah, tools, yes, and this is something I say all the time. We also have to consider that, and maybe that's why this survey is out. Like,
No, that's not nice. That's not nice. Maggie.
okay. Sorry, lost my train of thought. No. But we have to consider maybe the tools don't work as advertised, or maybe the tools that are on offer, the juice is not really worth the squeeze, right?
That's possible.
You had to make, I think that's if for Kay Asante is probably prolific, yours has to be juice worth the squeeze. You all use those words. That's like, you got to get a shirt or something made with that. And Yeah, and prolific. I'm telling you, sell
Well,
that.
because here's the thing, right? Now, Kei Asante, in his day job, right? He has to read a lot of white papers, right? So he'll read some
What do
hardware
you mean
specs
by
and
that?
no, he'll read some hardware specs and make decisions, and this hardware is supposed to do this, and so we make these orders. That's what he does. What I am is a software engineer, right? And so I can tell you all too often that the white paper can say one thing, and when you use the tools on the ground and they cause you more trouble than they're worth, a lot of the times you just go back to what you know,
That makes
Fair
sense.
enough.
right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of things will promise they're going to make your life easier, but then they don't work
Not
as
fully baked
advertised.
or not ready for
And
prime time.
Yeah,
and
they
so
come out like they're going to be, a Chad, but then they really are like more of a Tyrone, and give you a
Excuse me?
baby.
listen, you can get what you need from the tools, but you're gonna have to put in extra work. And a lot of people don't have time for that. They have budgets, they have release dates that they have to hit,
True.
right?
Yeah.
And then you're telling them they got to optimize for two different pieces of hardware, while on the main seller they're only optimizing for one piece of hardware. All these
Yeah,
things
you're
are
right.
are factors, right? And so they have to find a way, as we all said, to ease those tension points. And we who defended those tools have to say maybe the tools didn't work as advertised.
Yeah, and
I was left in that tough spot though, Evermore, where I had to like be like the only X bot in the space, having to try to defend it, and like they're there. I mean, the mesh shaders, and I'm like, okay, let me stop, because I'm not that big
but
of a tech
listen,
guy either.
but listen. Here's the thing as well. I just wanted sort of, because you mentioned something, Umbra, that we've said many times, and many people have said many times, which turns out not to be true. I was having a conversation with some people in an Xbox party about what they actually develop for first, like what SKUs do they develop for, et cetera, et cetera. Not going to say who we reached out to, but we reached out to someone who knows, who 100% knows. So I'll read out verbatim the question, and I'll read out verbatim the answer. The question was, hey, quick question. Do developers typically develop for the Series S first and then scale up for the Series X, or is it the opposite? They said, depends, but usually the opposite. 70 to 80% of all development actually happens on PC. Usually the last 20 to 30% is spent optimizing and finalizing on consoles. If the target is targeting high-end PC, e.g. 3080 plus, they scale down. If they're targeting a broader PC base, they often scale up. So we didn't get a definitive on, but the conversations that we have about developing for PlayStation, then circling back to Xbox, it still stands, because you're talking about an API with an Xbox, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kay, in the chat, and Everborn. You're developing for an API with a console. You're not developing for a CPU and a GPU, and you're not trying to hit you're trying to hit a 3080 plus spec, right? Which I would say AAAs do quite often, and I would say the bigger AA's probably do quite often. But with the smaller devs, they'd obviously be targeting a broader PC audience, right? Because AAAs, you always see them. It's like 3080 or maybe just slightly below that up with these sort of settings that you can manage. So I guess the problem still stands. You're developing for a high SKU and trying to scale down. And my argument was, and it is a good argument, but it's a lot of work to do. If you develop for that lower end spec first, the Series S first, and then scale up, that is, I would imagine, because I'm not a developer, but I would imagine that's orders of magnitude easier than scaling down. That's going to make your life easier in the long run, but no one sort of seems to set out to do that.
Well, why
the
should
beginning.
they though? Right?
Well, because that gives you a fully optimized game on the bigger hardware, the better hardware. You can just scale up graphics. You can scale up frames per second. You can scale all that stuff. It's fairly easy, as opposed to trying to make a round peg fit into a square hole, right? Which is effectively what you're doing.
But isn't Microsoft the one creating the square hole, right? So
Right, true.
what I'm
Well,
saying
that's
is
the problem.
Parity clause,
That's the
or
problem.
because of having the two SKUs.
I think it's having the, it's not even having the two SKUs, because I think Jez talked about this the other day, and I kind of agree. If they just started out and said, "Hey, Series S is what we're offering this gen," and then later on released a Series X, then devs would have gotten used to the Series S hardware and maybe started from there. But they didn't do that. They gave them two SKUs from the beginning when they were already playing catch up. And so the developers are going to have their main target where they know they're gonna get most of their console sales from, and the Series X is closest to that. So most of your work is done by focusing on the PS5 and then porting over. I know you're doing most of it on the PC. That's where the development happens. But I'm saying once when you're in that optimization phase, it is easier to go from PS5 to Series X, and then 2/3 of your work is done, and then you just got to optimize for the S, right? I just think that, if you were still focused on selling consoles and you were trying to sell 50 million, 100 million, and you had that sizable base, then you might see developers going out of their way to target that piece of hardware.
Let me ask you
But
something.
They're,
On to that point.
one thing, Umbra. So they're giving the developers extra work while also not having a focus on selling more consoles. And I'm not saying they need to sell more consoles. I am just saying, if I'm a developer and I see that there's no effort there to try to sell 50 or 100 million, but now I got to do extra work for that platform, I'm gonna in my head complain, and if it's not gonna ruin a relationship for the company I work for, then I'm gonna complain publicly. And when you complain about Microsoft, nobody's gonna do it. There's no recourse. So
We've seen it too, where developers have come out and said stuff vocally, on Twitter and whatever. So to that point, do you think? This is a question to all of you all, obviously. And Donte, I thought you had something you were about to add a while ago, but you stopped.
The only little part I was going to add was just that. So like whatever your next console is, right? Whatever your next product is, and if it has some additional skills or tool sets that could basically make games perform better or whatnot, we can't be 3-4 years into the gen before we start seeing that, right? It doesn't benefit your customer to be like, okay, great. So your first party, when are we going to see the games that are taking advantage of what your box can do? And then that happens almost near the end of your generation for the most part, right? Because now we're already talking about whatever the next hardware is going to be, and now we're getting games like that, like Fable and Ninja Theory's last game, and
Which could very well land on the next gen console, by the
right?
way.
Exactly. So it's like that can't happen. It can't be. We're seeing the I get it. It takes some of the studios time to kind of get used to whatever the new tool sets are, but it doesn't benefit your consumer if they're waiting 3 to 4 years before they're finally seeing that from your first party. So they got to figure that out as well.
If they're developing, this is the other thing is the question, and I spoke about this with Kay. I am going to jump to you, Umbra, and then we're going to jump to Holly, because I know Holly tried to jump in a little bit earlier. But I spoke to Kay about this, and if they stick with the tools that they've implemented and the GDK they've implemented this generation, that problem's sort of solved. But will they get rid of all that R&D and then jump over to a more PC oriented sort of development tool set? If so, again, that problem's sort of solved. That problem's just solved by time, I think. I don't think it's you probably should have started that GDK in the middle of the Xbox One era
for the PC already, right? And
and then develop for
that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was kind of the
makes
whole
sense.
point of the GDK to blur the lines between their console and PC development. But the other problem is games that are published in the, I don't know if it games that run in the Xbox launcher on PC are not great. A lot of them have issues, and it'll be the same games, even first party, that just run better and have less issues in Steam than they have in Xbox's own store, which is the Windows Store, which is garbage. So to me, what I want to hear from them, this is the number one thing I want to hear from them, is they are taking the steps necessary to remove the friction for developers publishing apps in their PC store.
It's what the hell? Oh, is that the new PC sound?
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like when I power mine on.
That's transcendence.
Yes, I'm used to the sound because when I, yes. Anyway, I was going to add though. The question was to everybody was that because a lot of this is us kind of. It might sound like excuse making to some with what we're saying.
Ruminating.
Yeah, we're ruminating, as you say. We're getting some theory crafting going on here. But my thought too would also be, where do we point the blame at for Xbox with this when it comes to this? Because I know a lot of people don't want to do that, and they're like, "Oh, well, it's not Xbox fault." Like you can't really ever point the finger at them at times. I know we don't really do that here. We're honest, you know what I mean. But I know a lot in the fan base.
Speak for yourself, Umbra.
Yeah,
I'm gonna give them a little grace, Umbra, specifically because of the Xbox One gen, right? That was like a come to terms moment as to, well, we need to course correct and try to win back something and stabilize the ship before we end up losing like a lot of people, like even worse than how they already had got hit. Right. So like they needed to come back with this gen to be like, okay, how do we get some users back? And we needed a low entry point. That's the S. And then how do we also, since we've set this narrative with the One X of having, the most powerful hardware and not having situations where like the PlayStation unit was definitively, more powerful. Here's the Series X, right? So like that was like just a stabilizing. So like, okay, cool. Now you've kind of done that, but now it's like, now you got to really make it so that you got to fix the issues that you sort of kind of created with what's happened with this gen, unfortunately. So I don't know, like obviously leadership deserves some blame, but it's kind of hard for me to put a lot on them when they were just basically trying to dig us out of the hole that we were in after Xbox One gen. So
yeah, they were on the back foot.
It's kind of like that.
Let me ask you a question to that end, though, right? What would you all say was the goal of the Series S?
Adoption.
To cater to
Low
to
entry
more
point.
adoption for casuals. Yeah.
Even if it's for the secondary
well,
device for PlayStation users, it was the early entry point. But go ahead, Holly.
That was it.
Yeah, well, now
exactly what you said.
My bad. My bad, Holly.
Stealing Holly's bar.
My bad. Get in there, Holly.
Look at how Holly's
the follow-up question is, was that a successful endeavor? Right?
It would probably be back 10. We'd be down 10 million more units without it. So I'd say yeah.
Do we know that though?
I'm thinking so.
I don't look. I've got to take
if we didn't have the Series S sales, you're
Right,
saying?
because if the whole
I think
I have two of them myself.
right, but had they gone the other route, which is here's a less expensive $399 box that is not a different hardware SKU,
and
so
took the
devs
loss.
don't have to do the extra work, and you don't lose the games, and you don't have the perception of not having all the games, right? Sorry, Umbra. Was the juice worth the squeeze?
Was the juice worth it? I love the juice worth this.
They still didn't have the games though. At that time, they didn't have the games to entice people. So it didn't matter if the box was $100 or $700. It didn't matter. They didn't have the games. They promised the games. The games are starting now, like after major acquisitions, right? But at the time, they were still, they hadn't acquired Bethesda. They were still working on a roadmap for all the stuff. You know what state Halo was in when the box launched, and it got delayed a year, and then it was still having some issues. So
Yeah, I think
That
you're right on
that
the
sound
nose.
went on way too long.
Yeah, that was. I think
but
Alex is
again-
right on the nose, right? That the narrative before all these
She's kicking
acquisitions
Halo
was
again.
Xbox
Every
has
chance
no
she gets.
games, right?
I
That
caught
was
it.
a theme for the longest time. Was Xbox has no games. So they were
Yeah.
literally trying to like, all right, since we don't have some games, what you got to do? You got to redirect and show value within the hardware. And so they were trying to show value within like, here's this powerful hardware with these feature sets, and then here's also, equally as powerful or a little bit less powerful, but basically can do a lot of what the big guy can do, but at a lower entry point. So you were
Yeah.
selling off of the hardware and its features because you didn't have the software to basically sell your systems like you did in a 360 gen.
And this is
So-
fair,
And they knew.
but go ahead, Holly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And they knew, right? Like they already knew at the point when this gen started, they had like Phil said, they lost the most important generation, right? Like
Yeah.
everybody's library, a digital library, was established on PlayStation. So
Mm-hmm.
they knew it wasn't about becoming the first and primary box. It was about being a box you also needed. And then there's all of us, right, who buy the thing anyway. But
Yeah.
they
But
needed
I want-
something that was simple, easy, that people that
Cheap.
with a budget that's tighter than the rest, but their kid wants to play Fortnite. Here you go.
And to add
So-
to that, though, my thinking, just to deviate a bit, is not just Microsoft decision making when it comes to consoles and stuff like that, though. And when I'm saying some of the fault lies on them, in that we started to kind of be have our eyes open to what we mentioned a minute ago, with these devs coming out saying, "Hey, Microsoft, I've been trying to contact them for the better part of the year, for 6 months or whatever, and nobody's gotten back to me. It's been months, nobody's gotten back to me."
That's a problem.
Or like Microsoft cannot allow that to continue. Like, I don't understand how that even became a
but here's
thing.
I just
one
think
thing,
the
though.
left hand doesn't talk to the right sometimes.
One
I mean,
one
we
thing
do-
I
we
would-
do need
Hang on, let me
context
let me
with
add to that.
right?
Let me
Because
add to that.
EverBorn said something earlier that like that probably does happen on PlayStation side, but no one's saying it.
I can tell you right now that happened to me trying
You
to
know?
publish the Ariel's Adventure game on the Switch. They just didn't get back to me.
Right.
Right?
See?
I was
Nintendo
reaching out
said
about-
Nintendo told you you're not Nintendo. That's all that was. They said, "Hey, we
Right?
we don't need you."
So,
That's
so
all
They-
this,
they-
that,
they know
that's
you're
the
a Sega-
thing that happens
They know
all
you're
the
a Sega
time.
guy.
Yeah.
It makes news. That's true. It makes news because it's Xbox. It gets traction because it's Xbox. Don't think that as big as PlayStation and Nintendo are, that every indie developer they just get back to instantly, and
That's
they can
true.
just pick up the phone and talk to Herman Holtz.
That is a fair
No,
point.
I mean, that's
that is a fair
that's
point. but
corporate.
Yeah, and that's not a you're making a fair point. I'm sure that happens. We've actually seen there are some instances rather to both you
There
and
was-
Donte's point where PlayStation some devs came out against PlayStation for that too, as far as
There
their
was a whole
placement in the
little
store and
There was a little mini revolution on the indie side, what,
Mm-hmm.
two or 3 years ago, where they really kind of rose up and were just like, PlayStation doesn't support us. You
Yep.
can't find our game on their store unless
Yeah.
you pay $1 billion. You're never gonna get any
It's still
sort
up
of
on Twitter.
marketing.
Actually, it's still on Twitter. Actually, it is
Same thing for
25,000.
them.
You're right. I know,
Same thing
right?
for
For
them.
them, for them,
But
it's
yeah.
about there. You're right, but you're right. That thread is still on Twitter, by the way. I should look for it to see if I could post it. But so PlayStation does have it. You all, to your guys' point, you all are right. But so it's not unique just to Xbox. But I feel like with Microsoft being in the situation they are in, things like that now was quickly rectified by Phil. But like, why should Phil, in a position he's in, have to step into that? I feel like they have to have better overhead when it comes to some of these things, because it's like it's a constant. We always talk about this. Everybody always talks about it. It's this constant rake stepping thing that they like.
Is that
to do.
under Sarah or is that under Matt?
It feels like it would be under Matt to me, right? The game part,
Yeah.
I would think.
One of those two.
Yeah. And maybe
I
it's,
mean,
and we've
liaison-
said this before,
I think
but
it's
Matt like
under
it feels like he needs more people with him too. It seems like he's
I
not
think it's under
getting enough
Sarah.
help.
Wasn't she supposed to be part of the group that was the liaison wing
reach out
to
for
For indie
third
stuff,
party.
for the indie games.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think So that's something else. This is what I was going to mention. I look. So just listening to all your points, you guys made great points. I've had this argument with a particular person who I think still in the chat. He knows who he is. He may be on a show with EverBorn Saga. But I've had this argument many, many, many times. And look, this is just an undeniable fact they launched the S without enough support. So to me, the S is a net negative for Xbox. Yes, they sold more, but they would have probably sold close to the amount if they hadn't launched 2 SKUs. I believe that.
Wait.
It launched.
You think if they did not launch the S and just the X, they would have moved the same amount of units?
Yeah, not the same, close to, but not the same. If they drop the price,
that's an excellent point, Riskit.
So hang on. Let me just get this all out. So they launched this Series S with an underbaked tools that weren't equipped or doing what they read on the box that they would do. They didn't have a staffed up advanced tech team going out to these bigger, I mean, probably to AAAs, but they didn't have enough to sort of filter out amongst the AAs to help people develop for this box. And so to me, they've launched the S, which might have been a good idea, into a market where they're in third place, completely unsupported. Not completely unsupported, but for the most part, unsupported by the company itself. They basically threw this thing out to the wolves. And now we're in the situation that we're in with the S. So I can only see the S as a net negative, not the hardware itself, not the box itself, but the way that they've handled the hardware and the box, I think has been poorly done, poorly managed.
Riskit, would you say then? Would you say then that the S is a mistake? Would you say that?
How many S's do you have, Holly?
I've said that live. You just want me to say it live? Yeah, I think the S is a mistake.
I have 2.
Somebody clip that.
2 S's though, and I know I know several people who can say the same thing where they got 2 of the S's.
The S is a miracle machine, and I love it. And I hate.
I know a lot of people who travel, and they travel with the S, right?
I do.
No one really is traveling. Yeah. Right. You risk it. You're okay. Poster child for it, right? So like, if it didn't have the memory issue, I don't think we'd be even having this conversation.
True.
And it's the same thing as an ally. It is
right, but it does.
But the majority of people aren't as in tune as we are to care about that. The people who are the casuals, who are the target market for picking up the S, aren't sitting here following and saying, "Oh, the S has a memory issue, and that's why Baldur's Gate hit a little bit later." Like they're not as locked in to understand it.
Yeah,
like,
but what they do know
they don't care.
Baldur's Gate hit later. It doesn't matter to them that it's a memory thing. It hit later.
Those who are locked in, I'm talking about the casual who's playing Fortnite, COD, those type of games. They're not caring about that. They picked up a $2.99 machine.
Sure, but I would add
running COD and playing Fortnite.
And you're right. You're right about that. But then it goes back to, we always talk about the zeitgeist. PlayStation has the zeitgeist. They're like, oh, you have to have a PlayStation.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
Xbox doesn't have that.
But blaming the S on everything is BS, because at the end of the day, the Ally and the S, they're comparable, right? Am I right? Like, I'm not a tech person, but they are they're very similar, right? Yeah. And do you know how many PC and all other kinds of games I can play on the Ally? It is the fact that, yes, it has some limitations, but you could get it working on that thing. I have no doubt in my mind, right, that everything that you can play, that everything that we could play in this gen, you can play on the S. And it's become the punching bag for every little problem that people say, oh, I can't do it because of this or that. And I'm not saying that it may not have its own special difficulties, but it just doesn't, it's a bad argument to me. I mean,
you're absolutely right. I think it goes back to EverBorn's point, though, with I'm sorry to steal your word.
The development stuff.
The juice worth the squeeze. That's what it is. Yeah, it's the juice worth the squeeze. And they don't want to have to put in that extra work, to your point, Holly. Like, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Let me ask.
The S is it's actually more powerful than the X or whatever, or the Ally.
The Ally,
it is.
Yeah.
Tim Pierre just made a perfect argument in the chat. Tim Pierre 21. He said, in regards to you guys saying the casuals don't know or they haven't noticed the RAM, he just made a perfect argument to drop parity, which I was against, but I am now for. He said they don't even know about Baldur's Gate being late to Xbox. And if they don't even know about it being late to Xbox, they don't even know about it being late to the Series S, the X, then you could release it on the X. And if they have an S, they wouldn't even know about it being late to the S. So why don't they drop the parity?
That's more reason why they should drop the parity. Yeah, you're right.
Exactly.
I've been against the parity thing for a while. I know I get pushed back against it typically, and I've been saying this for a long time. Like, I remember one of the first time I was like, okay, pause. I was like, I was like, hey, why can they not just get rid of the parity clause? And people were like, no, because the Series S, people need it too. That wouldn't be fair. And I'm like, listen, I got this much more expensive, powerful hardware, and I'm like, I don't care about y'all on the Series S. I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm like, I want that now. To be fair, now I've expanded and ascended to the PC, so I don't have this issue
Sprinkle
anymore.
pants.
Easy,
Sprinkle pants.
no, the new
Sprinkle
sound.
pants.
Give it, don't do it.
Sprinkle pants.
Yes.
I mean, Umbra, I feel you from a selfish point. Wow, that's long. That is
It's very long.
That is.
It's very long.
Yeah.
Yo,
that's
Yeah, yeah, Holly. What is
I
it?
feel you from a selfish point on that, but I can look at from a standpoint of the negative news cycle that loves to permeate around Xbox. I can see that that would be one that basically they would eat up, right?
Yeah.
As such and such game drops, Xbox dropped the parity clause. It's on Series X, Series S users. Sorry, you got to wait for 3 more months before it's ready for you guys. And they're going to continue the way
they
that
would get
Play-
crucified.
It's
the
an
way PlayStation
elitist
gets
classist
nothing for
thing.
the last
You
for
can't do
factions
that.
not coming out. The way PlayStation hardly gets nothing for when they had some layoffs. Really, Xbox would be in the news cycle negatively for weeks about that if they did drop it. As much as
As they should be.
right
As
right.
they
So
should be.
I think it would be. They understand that part that it's just going to basically fragment. It's going to fragment a fan base to a
It will
degree too,
fragment
because there
it.
will
It
be
will.
that vocal portion of the Series S users who are like, "What the
Look,
F?
they already got enough other
Right?
things in
What
the
the F?
queue
I can't
to
play
piss
this game that
people
my
off.
buddy's playing
Okay.
because he has an X and I
See,
got
they
an
don't need to add
S."
more, huh?
Yeah.
But my thing is, and it is an elitist point of view. You're not wrong there for that, Holly. You're not wrong. But I feel like, yes. Wait. Okay, that's not for the
That
PC
one's
sound.
better.
Okay.
Sparkle
No,
pants.
don't listen to her. But listen, my whole thing is, I think they're damned if they do and damned if they don't, because we're continuously having an issue where games are skipping the platform. I went to PC for Black Myth because I wasn't having the issues PS5 is having.
You don't play anything on Xbox anymore anyway.
I
Why
do.
Are you pretending like that was the only game. Shut up.
That's not true. That's not true.
She got you on that one.
That's not true.
So true.
Donte, have my back. Donte.
Sorry, man.
crap.
She got you on that one. You walked in on that one on PC Master Race. I can't help you on that one, fam.
Trying to pretend like you're a
Why-
man of the people.
I
What's going on right
I
now?
can't help you on that one. She got you.
Oh man!
Wait a minute,
Get you
wait a
with the
minute.
Not like us.
you did. Oh, I've been
Damn.
excommunicated. I feel like Drake over here. What's going on?
I got you on the next
But-
one. I got you on the next one. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just saying, like, I went to the PC because it was for higher end games I knew wouldn't perform well on console, right? Hellblade 2, magnificent on the PC. I mean, it's magnificent on Xbox too, to be fair. But it's insane. The visuals.
So
for
he's
that thing-
heard.
No, I actually tried on both for that. To be fair, I
Peasants,
did.
console
I
peasants.
lowered
How are these
myself.
games fair?
This is CNN
Yeah.
and I'm fact checking your ass, okay?
Damn.
She's
Holly is
Fox
on it
News.
right
Don't
now.
listen to her. She's Fox News with this
God
right now.
damn.
No, but
Holly's-
she's on. Yeah, she's on it. But
She's on it
no,
right now.
For Hellblade 2, I played for both PC and Xbox to test it out, and it looks great on both. But it looks magnificent on PC. I still can't believe what I saw. Like it's the best. Yes, shower me, the heavenly choir. It is the best looking game I've ever seen of all time, no question about it. So my thing of going back to that is, what was that? A little choir in the background. My point to that though is like they're damned if they do and damned if they don't. But you cannot have where, like for instance, you say they obviously, people would turn against that, like, oh, now we can't get the games at the same time. But then now we have the issue where you can't even get the game. Look how it de facto made those games
Yes.
exclusive to PlayStation. Xbox cannot allow that to continue to happen.
So
Testify.
that
Sorry.
Yes.
No. So where Xbox deserves smoke for that is the fact that, like we talked about, Baldur's Gate 3 and Black Myth Wukong. It's not like you don't know these games are going to be big. You know out of everybody that these games are coming and that they're going to be big. And where was your outreach? Where was your support? Where was your check-ins all along the way to be like, you good? Do you need help?
Yeah, you're
Because
right on that one.
we need to work together on this.
You're
This
right.
was preventable.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
They
They,
didn't.
they
Absolutely,
didn't.
absolutely right on that
They
one.
didn't
Spot on.
support it. You guys were you were pushing back a bit, Holly, on what I was saying, but that's the advanced technology team, and they cut staff on the advanced technology team. They cut staff on the certification team. These are areas where they
point.
couldn't afford to cut staff, and they did, and they've been having problems in these areas. They even said themselves, like I had this sort of brought up earlier in the show that I wrote it out. This is a quote from the blog post. The decision to create a program dedicated to game creators comes as a natural progression in Xbox's researchers' organizational maturity. We've known for a while this is a gap, Henderson explains. We do lots of work on games, on hardware, on the dash, and yet most of the systems for collecting feedback on the back end were less formal, which means that they've got the stats, they're not using them, and they're not listening to what they're being told by their developers. And now, 4 years into the generation, we're going to start listening. We're going to start looking at these stats. We're going to start making it. If they had done that earlier on in the generation, they would have not cut staff in those areas where they were crucial for Xbox. So I think
But that's not an S
issue,
problem. That's an Xbox problem.
no, but the issue
Agreed.
isn't the S. That's right. But they have the S, and they've created the issue because of the organizational issues. So that's where, and it's not an issue with the Xbox Series X because it just has the brute force to brute force it, right? We're not saying that every game's optimized on the X when it comes out, because that's not true. And on the PlayStation, look at Black Myth Wukong. But the S is obviously going to suffer more from these organizational cutbacks where they needed to not cut back. And in fact, what they should have done is beefed up their advanced development tech team, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. If anyone from Xbox is watching, that's what I
Riskit,
think
you're
you should
botting
do.
for some
I can
reason.
run Xbox. Give me Xbox for a year. We're going to have exclusive content. We're going to have a 3080 Xbox. It's going to access Steam. Everything's going to be fantastic. Come with me, Xbox. I got this. All right.
Yes,
And then-
hire us,
but-
Xbox.
But those cuts and what comes with it, the issues that we're seeing now and the money they're losing, et cetera, the market share, all that, it's a conscious choice because of the decisions that they made. And we know that Xbox is really good at looking at mistakes or seeing a lot of mistakes pile up, right? And then trying to learn from them moving forward. So yes, I mean, the consumers are paying for those issues, but so is Xbox, right? Because they can't, they cannot like cut the parity clause. They can't do that. It's not something that's viable.
So somebody asked a question earlier. They asked about
they
the
could.
handheld for next gen, and they said, "Well, what happens then if they're going to have a handheld SKU, SKU? I don't know why I said SKU. SKU for next gen. I don't know why I did. I'm so sorry.
It's a PC hangover.
Damn you all for that GDK talk. It made me talk that way. They're going to have a handheld SKU. So how would that are we going to run into the same issue that we're having here with the S and X next gen? What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Let me answer if I may. I think that as long as it's a PC based handheld, I don't think it's an issue because you can run games on a lot of the games that will run on the ROG Ally are not specifically tuned for the ROG Ally. You're seeing a lot of devs like try to get Steam Deck verified, right? And they'll do some tuning for that. But I think if the traditional console is what goes under your TV and the handheld is just a PC-based device, they'll be fine because what you'll be playing on the Xbox handheld is the PC version, and what you'll be playing on the console is the console version. Now, if they're both based on PC, then it's one version you're going to play, and it's just going to scale, and you'll have all those options and settings. But if they're still going to do a traditional console, I don't think that's what the handheld will be. So I think that's how they have two SKUs, but not be subject to the issues that they're seeing people complain about with the S.
You think maybe it might have? My thinking was it'll have a dock thing where they dock it and it becomes
No.
more powerful. No,
No, that's not going to happen. The only thing you'll get is more TDP from that dock. It is too expensive for them to make a separate
eGPU. Yeah,
right. Because if you look at it right now in the PC space, these eGPUs cost more than the device itself.
yeah, they're
Right.
pretty expensive.
So
Yeah.
unless people are going to spend an extra $500-$600 to get that situation, and the way technology is right now, it's not very plug and play. Whereas what happens if you're in the middle of playing and now you got to go, so you pause it and unplug it?
Now, today,
Crash your whole
now,
system?
just to throw this out there, because Riskit, I saw you raise your hand, and you being the last
I'll pay
console
for it.
holdout. That's my point, because we have enthusiasts who will pay for these things and say, well, I'm not going to PC. So I remember arguing or asking one time before in a chat with you guys, EverBorn, way back, well before we heard any of this stuff with a handheld. Would there be a case, and Kay, you might remember this if you're in the chat, could they do something of a case of like a modular situation where you can
No.
you get different SKUs or have attachments? So the eGPU would be a modular kind of thing where you can plug it to get more power. You see what I mean?
Here's the thing.
You don't think they would do that?
In some of the conversations that I've had with people, I'll just say people, the future is not really bring your own GPU. The future in terms of graphics, as far as they are concerned, is upscaling, right? So instead of throwing, more brute force GPU at these problems, if you can render at lower resolutions and improve your upscaling tech, that's how we'll get the performance and visuals that we expect to see from a next generation, right? So this is why I would be highly surprised and shocked if they're doing an eGPU situation. I really don't think that's going to happen.
So flat out, I got told, again, won't say who, but I got flat out told directly asking that question about modular, because that was a conversation, if you guys remember back in the Xbox One generation, there were discussions about that. And Phil commented on it and said, like, that might be
You just said you weren't going to say who.
No. Phil Spencer commented on, publicly that might be an option. They might look at modular. During this generation, I got a chance to ask that direct question about modular, and flat out was told no. It's too difficult to manage connections, to manage. So we started this generation.
You and I probably talked to the same person, Riskit.
Yeah. Yeah, so it was just a flat out, that's not the way we're going to go, because it's too difficult to manage that, whereas we can manage the internal software stuff if we build the hardware for that software to sit in there. Things like Pissa, someone earlier on in the generation, earlier on the show said, I couldn't believe that PlayStation came out with the Pissa the upscaler before Xbox. That's not entirely true, because what they've come out with is a DLSS solution, which is hardware based. Xbox or Microsoft has that solution that they're working on. That I can't remember the name of it, and it's not the the super resolution.
It's called Super. It's not that one.
It's not that one. That's a software.
No.
That's a software-based solution that sits on top of the.
Okay.
So you can use that with DLSSR and
it's
FSR.
Auto SR. They have it in. I have one of those new Surface ARM devices, right? But it uses the NPUs and it takes the final image. So whether you're using any of the other upscalers, XCSS, FSR, DLSS, whatever processed image you have, it will then upscale that. And the latency, according to Digital Foundry, I'm not like checking milliseconds here, but the latency is minimal to the point of not being able to notice it. So it does add latency because it's doing basically post-processing, but according to Digital Foundry, it works really well. So
did you say Diddy Foundry?
Diddle.
Diddly.
Dead in the middle of Little Italy, diddly little.
Listen, man, you use that, and all of the characters on screen look like they got baby oil on. But the thing is that,
Just slide across the stream.
You're looking real oiled up over there.
Look, but, but Xbox,
so automatic
Xbox
like,
does
Escape
have
from Butcher Bay. It's Escape from Diddy's. Like that.
Yeah, I'm
game
not
you're
locked
trying
in
to
here with
escape.
you. You're
Diddy's.
locked in here with me. But like, but they do have a solution that's a hardware solution that they are working on, which will very likely be in the next Xbox. So it wasn't that PlayStation was first to the party with PSSR. Probably Microsoft was first to the party, have been working on it for a while, but they haven't released new hardware, so we're not seeing that. So that solution will be there in the next box. It's coming.
I think what you're going to hear a lot next gen in terms of hardware, like this gen, it was teraflops for a weird reason, even though that doesn't really tell the whole story. This coming generation, I think we're going to hear all about NPUs and tops.
Right.
And that is
Are
where
they
the
cropped?
upscaling is happening. What's that?
Are they cropped?
Oh, they cropped. Haha. I see what you did there. But yeah,
What
the,
is tops
the future
though?
battle.
For the dumb ones, what's tops?
It
That's
is
when,
something operations something.
Okay.
But it's what
I've
it's what the NPUs use. It's basically like AI that where you're running separate operations that are outside of the CPU or GPU, and it can handle tasks, and the instruction set is a lot simpler, so it can do
gotcha.
it faster. So
It's
you
like
can
a butler.
Yes,
the-
you can give it like
Oh,
upscaling
The
tasks.
name of it, by the way, is Terra operations per second. Just to give you-
Trillions of
Trillions
operations.
of operation. Go ahead, Lucius,
Yeah.
with
Per
the
sec.
appreciate it, fam.
Yeah, and operations, not operations.
Operations.
But the
Well, look,
point
I
is,
think
it can handle. It can handle, like, it can offload tasks, and you can say, let's use these MP. And by the way, they're not even like used to their fullest extent today, right? But they can. You can handle your upscaling with those and have it do other things as well. So that stuff is only going to get better, and I think that is the battle of the future.
Yeah, absolutely. That, and obviously all your upscaling stuff that we've been talking about is where they're going to be focusing. But I do want to move on to another topic. I'm not going to hit the other big topic that we had, because we could probably talk about that next week, and it's a big topic again, something else that's more sort of industry wide. But what I am going to hit is the Halo third-person mode that got dropped. But before I do, please hit the like button, share us out. We go live 8 p.m. EST every second Friday, and every other Friday we are going to be doing pre-recording until I can get a solution for the internet up north. But yeah, please join us. We will be here in the chat, or I will be here in the chat for sure. Still chatting it up with you guys. Etc. Pause. So moving to the next topic. So Halo third person sort of dropped just real recently, but not long before the show. And this is one of Holly's passionate subjects. She really loves Halo. She wants to she wanted to talk about this for a good amount of the show. Look, I'm pretty excited about this, but I tend to think we're going to get into the whole Halo thing. I think this is additive, and I think there's a reason that they've put this in. So, you know, you're getting this with COD. They've got a third-person mode. Obviously, Fortnite's a big one. I don't think Apex has that. However, I think that they're dropping this in so they can slip it into the next Halo game without the pushback, because we know Halo players are extremely, what's the word?
Bad.
Difficult. Extremely difficult.
Come on, laugh.
To add, yeah, no one else has laughed.
I didn't think that was particularly funny,
You gotta
madam.
have skill to play Halo, so
That's right.
Nah, you got some serious.
Not
skill.
like those Call of Duty players.
Yes,
You know,
it's not just running gun, twitch.
anybody can get on there. And
Don't
start
hate the
dolphin-
player.
Start dolphin diving all over the place.
Hate the
Like
game.
Start dolphin diving like they got baby oil on them. You know, anybody can do that over there.
All right, sorry,
So-
Riskit. What's your question?
Yes.
So I guess I think this is a good additive to the game, but I think they're slipping it in so they can get into the next game. I think that's sort of the purpose. I think they're going to sort of get everyone along on the bandwagon, and then when they put it in, it won't be a big pause.
A big
When they put it in,
resistance. Yeah.
it won't be massive pushback. That was just a whole line
Balls
of.
again.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Also,
so what do you got?
Let me go
So what do
first
you guys think?
because
Yeah,
I'm
definitely
passionate
jump in.
about. I'm
Get
only
in there.
second. I get it. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Go ahead, Holly. Get it out there. Get it out. I hear you. It's formulating.
It rubs the lotion on its skin. Get in there.
Or else it's the baby oil.
He's real
again.
passionate about the baby oil game. Yep, let's go.
So I think rather than them actually introducing it to the main game, Riskit, it'll be for them to experiment going forward, not only with personal game modes that they make for multiplayer, but for a possible spin-off. Please don't let this play.
People 3 have just announced this on the Spartan Chatter panel at the...
There it is. Okay.
There it is.
It's a British bloke.
This bloke.
It should be sorted.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, this looks very, very fun. So I definitely am going to get Halo. It's been a while for me lately, but it looks damn fun. We see enough of person's perspectives when you pick up certain weapons and things like that. So it's not unique, but to see the full gameplay like that is definitely something. And I think I'm twofold thinking on this. One is they might use it for further modes that 343 themselves develop, but it's definitely for forgers and stuff like that. The best part of waking up is forgers in your cup, and that's what they're doing. Yeah. So they're definitely using this for modes that forgers are going to make, which will in turn be used by 343 because that's not the first. The Griff Ball, for instance, was done by forgers first. Bungie, then 343, of course, picked up on it and used it as actual game mode. So that happens. So shout out to our forgers who are just ridiculously great at this type of stuff. Two, to add to that, unfortunately, Inked, El Chapo, my brother, it is not a campaign. They need to do that, but we've seen they've given up on the campaign aspect in pretty much all versions of that. So I would love for them to do that. I would definitely replay the campaign because I love the campaign. Riskit murdered each other so many times we couldn't get anything done. But shout out to Doom
right.
Cutie. It is true.
We didn't get through it. We beat Cutie so badly she was hanging from a roof at one point. It was
We did. She was hanging up there like strange fruit. I'm sorry. But anyway, that's not fair to use that. Anyway, I'm so sorry. But getting back, yeah, they're not going to have it for a campaign. They'll have it specifically for multiplayer and for forgers to do what they do with it. But the second point I would think is that they could possibly use it for a spinoff. And I said this earlier talking to people, and I've said this for a while. I would love for them to do something with Fireteam Osiris. So they could do this as a spinoff situation where they say, well, we've worked with this to see how third-person perspectives is received by the community. Here's a Vanquish-esque Fireteam Osiris game that allows you to have this much more freedom when it comes to movement and action and stuff like that with this separate team, with Locke and all of them, and Vale and all of those guys. Versus Master Chief. With Master Chief and the Halo proper, I don't think they will deviate outside of first person for that. That's my thinking on it.
okay.
I hear you.
Well, look, I'm pretty hyped. I just want to get a sort of a round table, like where is everyone at with Halo third person? Donte, I'll jump to you, and EverBorn, feel free to jump in as well, because I know that you and Holly were having much to Holly's dismay, we're having an in-depth conversation about Halo. So Donte, where are you at with this third person? You think it's a bridge too far, or you think it's great they've added it into the game?
I think it depends on how it's implemented. So like if eventually if I can talk, if eventually it's because a future game, especially the campaign, allows for it, and this is kind of like the testing grounds, and okay, cool, because I think a lot of people would like to be able to see the ability. I want the ability to toggle, right? So I want the ability to switch between first and third person if I'm playing the campaign. A little bit of concern in terms of like, I hope it's limited to multiplayer and more like maybe custom games and stuff like that, because when you're in third person, you get like certain angles of stuff that you can see. Obviously, that gives you an advantage, right? Versus first person. So I don't see how you can make it where people can continue to do that in a competitive situation, because then everybody will just basically take that third person view to basically see more of the screen and see like someone coming from an angle you wouldn't have caught within first party. So it depends again on like the implementation. So if it's like certain types of game types, not competitive, like arena and Slayer, I think that's fine. And if it's also letting them lay the ground for a future Halo campaign where you'd be able to toggle between first and third person while you're playing as Chief, then I think that would be pretty dope. If this is kind of like the early seeds of doing that, it again remains to be seen because I don't know enough about it to find out like how it's gonna work for multiplayer. But I'm a little bit of concern if it ends up being implemented, if they put it into like the competitive stuff, because to me that seems that it might be a little unfair for some.
So I think Holly made an interesting point in the green room where when they do this in COD, it has to be like a match where everyone is either first person or everyone's third person, because that would throw off sort of the equilibrium of playing. So I don't think it's a matter of whether it's not competitive or not, because Fortnite is very competitive and that's all third person, right? So it can be, but it might just be that everyone needs to be using this one thing, right? It's the same way where if you're playing on controller, you don't really want to play with people who are using mouse and keyboard because you'll get destroyed. So I think it's a similar thing there, and you just say, hey, I want to go in this third person arena, and it can be as competitive as you want it to be. Now, in terms of the first party toggling between first and third person, I'm not really a fan of that, because most games that you see do it, I feel like you lose something in the way of animations for that, right? So if we think of Cyberpunk, right? Like that does not let you toggle unless you're like on a motorcycle or something like that. But you get a lot more in terms of character animation. And in a third person game, you'll get a lot more in terms of character animation than something that allows you to just jump into first person whenever you want. So I don't know that I would like a Halo game that that you can go into third person with. Not a third. I wouldn't be fine with a third person Halo game, but it would have to be all third person, and it'd have to be a spin-off.
So you want a spin-off. You don't want like a
Yeah,
dedicated
exactly.
mainline.
Exactly. I think you would lose some of the cinematic nature of Halo by just having a camera like kind of stupidly follow right behind the character's back, because you can't really do the kind of movements that you can do in a traditional third person game when it's something that you can toggle.
They would have to really go all out. Like they would have to make it, like I said, they'd have to do something akin to Vanquish. It'd have to be much more freeform. It couldn't be this kind of static camera movement that they have with it now. But
Yeah,
I think
well, who has done that well? Someone in the chat is saying Metal
Metal Gear
MGS did it
Solid.
well. I don't know what Metal Gear
Bethesda
Solid
does
yeah,
did
pretty
it.
Metal
pretty
Gear,
well too.
Metal Gear did do it well. I will give it to them.
You can do it
Like
in a lot of Bethesda games too. You can toggle between first and
Yeah,
third
but the
person as well.
Bethesda games, the animations are not like
kind of
as
stilted. Yeah,
cinematic as
Yeah.
you would see in some of these other things. And not as
True.
so that's what I'm worried about, losing the cinematic nature if you do it in the single player mode.
I get you there.
'Cause I remember like in the last Halo and Halo 5 where like you would do the kill animations and then it always would put you in third person, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So and then they obviously did away with that for Infinite. So like if is it that type of stuff you're concerned with, or just more so like other in-game elements where animations you feel would get lost if you were in a third person view?
Like if we look at the way this preview of this third person thing is, and if you look at the way Fortnite and any other multiplayer third person game, the camera isn't doing any like real work other than being glued to the character's back. And to me, that is less interesting than what you can do with the camera work if you're just going in one direction, either first person or third person. Halo's always been very good about pulling back to give you the third person view when you need to, but that is very different than just gluing the camera to Chief's back. So that's what I don't want. I like that right there doesn't work for me in a single player cinematic experience.
What if they did it kind of, just to throw it out there, it's just devil's advocate. What if they did it akin to a Devil May Cry or something? Because Devil May Cry is third person action, shoot, all that. But the camera is more free form. You can move around more freer. It's not stiff.
But will you be able to seamlessly transition into first person if they did that? I don't know that they would.
Nah,
And that would be my concern with it. In a single player, I think it's great. Like, because just one thing really quick, for this game to thrive, they're going to need to make money in microtransactions.
Gameplay in this way. And I know it's something that a lot of people have wanted for.
I don't know why that did that. But they do. I'm sorry, this thing is.
That will sell the skins, right?
That's exactly what I was getting at. So like,
but then we were talking about that earlier, and in all honesty, like Call of Duty is very successful at selling their skins because it's just a human that you're slapping some sort of goofy thing on or serious thing on, whatever you want. But in Halo, it's all about it. It's all about being in Spartan uniform or in Spartan gear all the time, right? So, like, I don't know. Like, it just seems to me that maybe there's a very clever way to make
drip is drip.
sellable skins
drip is drip, Holly.
For.
If your drips fly, your drips
but
fly.
It's not. But it's not.
Wait a minute, Holly.
What?
Are you not, Holly? Are you not ready for Nicki Minaj and Snoop Dogg in Halo?
Show me how that works. Show me how that works.
You imagine Snoop Dogg in there talking about some damn for shizzle in Halo? I'd be like, this pulled me all the way out of the game.
Like I was saying earlier, I think that just being able to show people, because here's the thing. There's no real progression in Halo other than the cosmetics you get, right?
Yeah.
So if all you have to offer in terms of progression is cosmetics, because they're not saying you could earn special exotic weapons that only you have, right? That's not how Halo works.
Yeah, they don't do Halo skins for guns, right?
What's that?
They don't do guns.
They do
gun skins.
There's gun skins, but there's not like an exotic thing that you had to go on a raid to get. Yeah. No, you could only it's not that kind of thing. And even in COD, right? You can like get a gun and then upgrade that gun. That's how that works, right?
Yeah. Yeah, right? you add attachments and you do challenges, which sucks. I hate the whole
let's do a challenge. Pro-tuned guns. You can buy guns that have special skins with that are pro-tuned.
Right, but there's none of that in Halo. So all they have is cosmetics. So I think it makes sense that they're going to show you the cosmetics and show you what you're putting in all this work for, right? Even if it's not like.
But like the wildest cosmetics in Halo that I've seen are like cat ears, and I'm like, who's paying for the color blue, right?
Some people bought those cat ears, and I did not like it, by the way, to your point.
Well, that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'm glad they did that, but I'm just saying, like,
that's the horse armor and Diablo crowd.
I mean, it's that. It's the Santa Claus helmet. They've done like different variations. They do the things where like your helmet has like these, kind of glowing halos and stuff like that off of it. So they do things like that to kind of elaborate and make it a little bit more, spoofy, I guess.
Yeah, they've done a lot of different things.
Umbra bought it 3 times.
You're not wrong. I bought a bunch of those costumes. This actually speaks to me a lot. To go to your point, Ollie, like I see, like I get why COD appeals to you the way it does, but for me, I am a thought for cosmetics in Halo. Like they get me. I try to like don't spend it for that, and then it's like, oh, that looks so good, I cannot resist. I get it.
Yeah, because like I guess sometimes when you're playing, you'll sometimes hear someone be like, "Yo, who's that in such and such armor?" Because like I got like one of the I got the armor that it's like a galaxy, right? So when you see me running around, it's like it looks like I have this. I'm a big galaxy guy, right? And like, yo, who's that in such and such galaxy armor? So it's like, oh yeah, be paying attention to the drip. Drip is drip, Ollie.
Drip is drip.
Drip is drip.
Hey, credit to MIG Elite. Absolutely agreed. We've said this before on the show. Is one of my complaints about Halo Infinite. And 343 is, again, it goes to the kind of like this tone deafness. Why in the world did they not allow us to use our multiplayer Spartans inside the campaign? Outside of the Master Chief.
Let me take it a step further. Like that map that they created, the Halo ring, is so fun to run around, but there's really nothing to do in it after you finish the game. We should be able to get together and do like raids
I
in
agree.
that world map from the campaign.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Right?
I think that was
that
part of
would
the
have
original
kept me
plan.
playing Halo, not the multiplayer. Like that is
Yeah,
technically multiplayer, but still, that is
it's
a
an
multiplayer I
aspect
could
of it.
get down with, not
Yeah.
the whole PvP thing.
I'm with you on that, and I
Um,
like PVE more when it comes to that. But I think that was part of their plans. But you see, it's like it had a very troubled development. We've come to find. If you follow Ribs on Twitter, he talks about it, and I think he has a video out on it too. I got to check it out. But he goes into the development issues they had, which we could all see and risk it. We covered that a lot back in the past when we were talking about what we felt it was. It
we
just
did.
came to be exactly what we thought it was. A lot of issues. But go ahead, Holly. You were about to say something, I believe.
I was just gonna say, I really think that Halo could do with some game types like a raid style situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I have no interest in playing multiplayer. I play it with other people when I'm forced to, but that's like once or twice a year. But like if it was something where there was an objective based thing that wasn't just, like a 6v6 kind of thing where it's a raid, like I would go play that because I love the campaigns for Halo. Like I find those extremely enjoyable. So if it was like a mission based thing with the squad or even a match made squad, fine, let's go do that, right? I think that would bring a lot of people back who do like Halo, but don't maybe necessarily care as much for just the standard multiplayer.
Well, this will bring me back,
Yeah, especially at least for the PvE crowd.
Well, third player,
I'm
third
super
person
keen.
is nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm super keen to jump back in and play the third person mode. But to your point as well, EverBorn, that you said a little while ago, is that you don't like you're a little bit worried about the animations. They already have that in the game, like your animations for running around with a hammer, your animations for running around with a sword, or jumping into a vehicle. So like it's already there. And it shouldn't take too much tweaking to make it good. I get your point with the sticking to the back. It'll just be interesting to see how it's done. Like I didn't mind the COD third person, and the more you play it, the more you get used to it. But it's not great. Yeah, it's not great.
Yeah.
It's not the way to play COD, But if this became the way to play Halo, and like you guys said, they did a campaign like an ODST where it was third person, I would be 100%, definitely 100% down for that. Look, we've sort of hit the 2-hour mark, and EV Mux did a really weird thing where it said it was going to end the broadcast in 8 seconds, but I managed to stop that. I don't know why. But it's been a fantastic show. Before we do outros, though, EverBorn, you've got some stuff you want to tell the guys in chat, so please let us know what you've been up to.
Yeah. So I have been putting together this Kickstarter for the last month. We are launching our latest issue. So we've been doing this since 2019. This is the 7th book in our epic fantasy saga that we're putting together. It started with Prince of Arcadia. Then we moved on to Ariel's Adventure, and then we launched the Redlands, and now we're doing Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2. It is 72 pages of X-Men meets Lord of the Rings, and it is drawn in an anime manga style, just because that's my favorite art style.
Well, you just spoiled all of that at the end part. You went to the back.
But it looks dope, though.
Here's the thing. We believe in this thing so much. If you go to Kickstarter right now and type in EverBorn, you're going to see there's only 3 days left in the campaign. But if you go there right now, just look at the page. We give you this book, digital PDF, for free, so you're not coming in blind if you come and get Chapter 2.
That's really dope.
Right? And so we and this ends on a cliffhanger, so like you can jump right into it. Another big thing, this is another thing that you do not see with a lot of Kickstarters. This book is already done, right? The books are already printed, and they will be delivered to my warehouse on Tuesday, which is the same day that the campaign ends. And so immediately when the campaign ends, we begin shipping out. You'll have your books before the end of October, maybe the beginning of November, depending on how long you take to fill out your survey with your address. So you don't have to worry about when or whether you're going to get the books. This is more of a pre-order than anything else. And it is sort of we took about a year or two off, even though we didn't take it off. We were actually developing things in the background. But this book is sort of the reintroduction to the world of EverBorn. So it's Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2. And then as soon as this campaign's over, we are going to relaunch the EverBorn site, the EverBorn Saga website. So we're going to do the 2.0 there. And then we're going into Comic-Con this year, New York Comic-Con. We're going to be on the main floor, center stage almost, booth 2039. So if you're going to be in that tri-state area and you're going to be at New York Comic-Con, you can actually come and pick up your books from the campaign because, again, they're already done. And so just to give you just some more idea of the level of quality we work at, the biggest
Straight
thing
to the
with
back.
this
What happens at the
is-
end? No.
We want our books to stand up next to the majors, even though this is entirely independently funded and published, right? So, and we think we do. We think we do a good job standing up next to them. And there's none of the rage beta, the agenda stuff in here. This is just what I think is good storytelling in a fantasy setting. And what we're doing is it's one story, it's 2 timelines, it's 3 different series. It'll be 4 next year, but we'll talk about that later. 3 different stories, each following a different character, telling the story from their vantage point. It's an interconnected universe, and we actually hit our goal, but we have a stretch goal right now. And that, can you share a website? Riskit? Can we look at the
I could
Kickstarter
try.
link?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Got
Yeah.
it.
So
Everyone, do you
just
have
go to
some links, by the
Kickstarter.
way, to share for the chat right there for that, so they can get to you to your Kickstarter?
Yeah.
Oh
Let
yeah,
me-
absolutely.
let me
I'll be
send it.
sharing the Kickstarter down in the description.
Okay.
I am now a backer at EverBorn.
Thank you, sir.
sold me,
Thank you,
brother.
thank you. So now here's another thing, right? We have 2 variant covers that are exclusively available to this campaign. We're only printing 50 of them. When they are gone, we're not printing them again, so it'll just be that main cover. And so another thing is we have a tier called the EverBorn tier where we put you in the book as a character. So if you scroll down a little bit, Riskit, you'll see those are all the different tiers. That's the EverBorn tier and the Immortal tier. If you choose the Immortal tier, you'll get your own one-of-one cover drawn by the cover artist that does all our books, Philip Johnson. So the guy that did this cover and these covers will do a cover for you. But if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see some of the pages. So you'll see that I'm not joking when I say we leveled up and we try to put our stuff next to the majors, right?
Man. Nice.
So this is 72 pages, right? It's the biggest individual chapter we've ever done. And if you see the next page coming up, right? This, you guys know him in the community, Pixelbit G. He backed the first campaign, and so he backed the EverBorn tier, and so now he's a character. And we didn't just make him a little walk-on character. He's a whole villain in this one. I mean, some of you guys might think he's a villain in the timeline, but like this is what we do when you back us at that level. So you can become a character in the EverBorn saga. And like I said, there's only 3 days, and we have a ton of add-ons. Now
That's me, right there. That's my character.
Now, if you scroll down, we
I
want to
actually
hit our
wanna get in-
stretch goal.
I want to get involved in this too. I told you, EverBorn, I want to get into the book myself for sure. So I'm definitely. I'll talk to you more about it another time.
Okay, so this is our next series that we're launching, The Remnant, which is based on a novel that is coming out later on. This is the comic adaptation of that novel. So this is going to release at the end of 2025, and it'll be chapters 1 and 2 bundled, but chapter 1's already done. So we will, everyone, if we hit that goal, everyone who supported the campaign will get chapter 1 for free. And this is a book that's not coming out to the end of 2025. So everyone's going to get that. You don't have to do anything extra. It'll just come with your pledge. So if we hit our stretch goal, because that's so we can do a print run of that single issue. And here are the different tiers. And you may not know this. This actually all started from a video game, Ariel's World on the Windows Phone. And I was working on a sequel when Satya and Adela came in and decided to kill the Windows Phone. And I had all this story, and we couldn't release because it was specifically designed for that platform. And so I started turning it into a comic series. And then that one series turned into multiple series because the story started to become more and more sprawling. And so we are working on the sequel, and you'll hear a lot more about that at the beginning of next year. And that'll be on all the platforms, the Steams and your phones and things like that. And before we get to the sequel, we are going to port that original Windows Phone game to iOS and Android in 2025. So that's really the cat's pajamas.
Awesome,
Great work, man.
It
So
is
dope.
absolutely-
I feel honored that I have this. I know I have a buddy who's making comics, which is a lifelong thing of mine that I've always loved, and it inspires me actually seeing my man's art. Who's your artist again? What's his name?
Well, there's different ones, right? The cover artist that does all of our covers is Philip Johnson. He
Shout
does
out to
everything and the wall art that we offer,
Yeah,
right?
and the main artist is
Right now,
internal.
for Prince of Arcadia, it's Francis Martellino
Shout
that
out to
does
Francis.
these books. For the Redlands and Ariel's Adventure, it is Mike Banting.
Mike, okay.
And for the new series that's coming in 2025, The Remnant, that is Albert De La Cruz. Now, Albert is also the colorist on all the books. So he's going to be, he'll continue coloring all the books,
overtime.
but he's also going to be the artist on the Remnant series.
Very nice.
Now, the other thing is each of these series, I didn't separate them just because I like, making different series or whatever. Each of these series is a different sort of subgenre. So Prince of Arcadia is the tale of two princes. His father was king, his father is king, and he wants his throne back. And this is a very sort of politics, war, Game of Thrones style storytelling, right? So if you're into like metaphor and things like that, Refantasio, that's what this is like. The Redlands is a heist genre series, which is not very easy to write in a fantasy setting, because if you notice every heist series that you watch, they're talking on walkie-talkies. You can't do that in a fantasy setting because nobody's going to pull out a cell phone. But
Got to use
that's
magical
about this character here. Her name
telepathy or
is
something like that.
What's that? Well, yeah, but that's
telepathy maybe.
This is Isis Amun. That's what she is by day. She's a princess by day and bandit by night. So princess by day,
She's
bandit
busy.
by night. She can't tell her bandit friends that she's a princess, and she can't tell the king that she's secretly undermining him with this crew of bandits by night, because she is trying to overthrow the man that raised her, who killed her parents to take the throne. So, but again, her crew hates the royals, and if they find out that she's just using them to settle a score, oh boy for her. So that's the Redlands. And Ariel's Adventure is basically like a shonen sort of battle series. So Ariel meets new foes, learns things about himself. He matures, he grows, he gets stronger to one day take on Magnus, who is the EverBorn. We named EverBorn after the bad guy. It is like if the MCU was called the Thanos Saga.
I have this book of yours, by the way. I have Ariel's Adventure. I bought it years back, of course, but great book. If you ever do get to a point where you can have it animated, a brother has to have a voice line in there somewhere. You know,
Don't worry, man.
just putting their bid in there. You know.
Here's one last thing I'll say about this. You may not know, like I, aside from being a writer and a comic book independent publisher and producer or whatever, I also am a game developer. Like I said, this all started from a game. I do all the coding there, but each of these series are designed to have their own 16-bit era game. So like Ariel's Adventure, the game is a love letter to 16-bit era 2D platformers, right? The Redlands is going to be, and work has already started on this. This is going to be a 2D beat 'em up in the vein of Shredder's Revenge, Streets of Rage 4.
Nice.
Prince of Arcadia is going to be a turn-based, top-down RPG, and The Remnant will be a top-down action RPG like Link to the Past.
Nice.
So
Nice
yeah,
stuff.
so each series is going to have its own games, and that's why they're separated and they're all told in their own separate genre. I'm a madman for trying to put all this together myself, but this is sort of my life's work. So
Yeah, man. I love the idea
Awesome, man.
for the,
And
the
you've got-
top-down thing too. By the way, put some good music to it. You good.
And you've got 3 days to jump into that Kickstarter and support. So guys, if you can jump in there, support. The prices are actually really reasonable for what you get. I need to jump in there and get it sorted. I've had it up on my desktop since Gaming Circle podcast. So I'm going to jump in there probably today, tomorrow, and get that sorted out. But that is the show. We got to get out of here. So we'll do the outros. EverBorn, thank you for coming on and giving us your takes, and also showing us the Saga is looking absolutely amazing. I'll definitely jump into that. I can't wait for the games when they come out. Hopefully you'll be able to publish on the Series S. Someone said, are they coming on the Series S, or will they be held back? Remains to be seen.
no, they're all
Holly-
2D 16-bit style, mostly pixel art games. They better not be held back by the Series S. They'll be held back on
It's got the
Switch.
RAM. Yeah, they got the RAM. It's got the RAM. Blue, let the people know where they can find you, what you be up to, and all your stuffs. Holly.
Yeah, on Tuesday night. Yes. On Tuesday nights, I am on the Renegade Realm podcast, which is on Red Wolf's channel. And also, I work with Ben Kenobi on the coins, the fan art coins. This one is not coming up, but this is the last one that we did. It is Sea of Thieves. It is gorgeous. It was a limited time giveaway in Germany by Xbox at the Sea of Thieves booth. So I should have the Call of Duty coins in. That'll be our next giveaway within the week, I hope. We're doing something really cool where we're actually upping our amount of coins just a little bit, and then splitting that over 3 different designs that are unique. And then the giveaways will be purely random. So I'll be looking out on Twitter on my Twitter, which is ThatBlueNumber, or also Ben Kenobi 2020. And we'll be getting ready, and we'll also post like the shows that are doing those giveaways as well. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Thanks, chat. Thank you,
Holly,
Awesome.
EverBorn.
Thanks, Holly.
I'll tell you
I'm
one of
having
these
some
days
audio
about
issues
an
on my
EverBorn
end.
coin.
So just excuse me for
Yeah.
madly switching out.
Yeah, hit me up.
Ooh.
I'm on the business side of stuff. So
An EverBorn
Sorry.
coin would be tight. Yeah.
that would be really cool. Yep.
Awesome. But let the people know where they can find you, what you be up to, and how your week's looking.
The week is looking good. The weekend, to be particular, because tomorrow we'll have the fix. We're going to do a roundtable for Metaphor Rifantasio. I feel like you got to roll that R when you say Rifantasio. You know what I mean? What were you going to say?
Hey,
Hal?
Umbra. Yeah,
Yes.
everybody should watch that too, because Umbra is going to have Assassin on, and he's on the Renegade Realm. And Assassin, I'm so glad you're having Assassin on. I was going to tell you that.
Yeah.
he really, really loves Persona
He does.
and Atlas
Yeah.
games. So
He-
yeah, it's good. It's good to go.
Assassin is an as I hate to use the word because I don't really use it. It's like saying cute, but he's an awesome dude. The more I've talked to the young brother, just hearing his thoughts on things, he has a lot of shared thoughts and views on gaming. I do when it comes to action-based games and stuff like that. And he's just for his age, he's so wise. It's always a joy to hear him talk about stuff, and I mean that. I'm not saying that to
A wise
fluff him up.
ass.
He's also a wise ass. Yeah, he's a wise ass too. Or as Red Wolf called him on the show at one point. What was it, Ass Man or something like that?
We
I
call
saw
him
the
Ass
name.
for Sin.
Yeah, Ass for
Ass for
Sin. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But shout out to Assassin. He'll be a guest as well as our brother Lucius Augustus tomorrow at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we were in the green room because the other day I had an issue with my internet and could not get on, unfortunately. But tomorrow we won't be held back by that because they've come and fixed it. And we were just in a green room when the internet would not connect and vibing and having a conversation as if we were live. It flew by, time flew by, conversation was fluid and smooth. You could tell we were all feeling this game, and I really love that. So I think you all will experience that when you come and join us tomorrow. So please come by and check us out. I have the advert posted on my Twitter already, but I'm going to repost it, of course, tomorrow. So keep a eye out for that rather, and come by and kick it with us for a little bit and get some thoughts on this because Metaphor is coming to the Xbox platform. Microsoft has marketing for it and everything like that, and I think it's a game that if you all can like turn-based or would like to try to experiment in trying those games out, you will also enjoy as well. It has a lot of political intrigue, a lot of sim relationship themes and stuff behind it, and the entire name and base of the game, which was so correctly pointed out by my brother Lucius, is tied to literary devices, and we'll get into that tomorrow and more thoughts on that. So please come by and check us out and spend some time with us. As far as the panel, love you all. You all know that. EverBorn, my brother, always happy to talk with you and hear your wisdom. And I wish you nothing but the best for the campaign. Of course, I'm already a member for it and waiting to pay when I'm charged. Charged me more in this case. So I got you. Thank you for being here with us tonight, brother. Riskit, you're doing a great job, brother. Loving the new intro and outro that you got working on. And chat, thank you all for being here, holding us down. You all make it so much better and encourage us to continue doing what we do. So much love to you all too.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for coming through every week supporting as you do on the panel. Donte, another fantastic week. Great to have you back, man. Really appreciate you being here. So let people know where they can find you, what you'd be up to, etc., all that stuff.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the chat. You guys were awesome as always. Special shout out to our brother EverBorn for coming through, man. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, and it was good to see a lot of the work that you do, man. So I'm happy that I was able to get the insight because I didn't even know you did anything with the with your book, man. So that's really, really dope because that's right up my alley. So where you can find me, most likely at your mom's house.
Hi-yo.
Hey-o, no. You catch me on Twitter, X.
Mama, who that is? Who is that?
Twix. Twitter, I'm not going to call it X. You can catch me. You catch me here, obviously, when we do our damn thing. But yeah, it was great being back. I'm happy to be here to talk some games. And hopefully, we can have better gaming news to be talking about as the
Yes.
the new era ushers itself in slowly. So everybody have a great weekend.
I think so as well, because I think we've got some stuff coming down the pipeline. I expect to hear about a handheld very, very soon, Microsoft. You guys in the chat have been absolutely fantastic. Again this week, guys are amazing. Coming through every week to support us. I have been trying to level up the show, so I do have something special on the outro. But yeah, again, thanks for coming through, guys. EverBorn, thank you for coming through and showing us the series. Really appreciate it. Guys, jump in the Kickstarter. I linked it in the chat. It will be down in the description. If you want to find anyone on the panel or guest, head down in the description, click those links, follow, like, share, buy, whatever it is you need to do it. We'll see you all next week.